to make sure children are not being brought in by human traffickers. They're saying it would set an unmeetable standard for Health and Human Services facilities, so children would have to be taken to Homeland Security facilities, which are designed for adults.
Fox's Mike Emanuel on Capitol Hill. Reporters also asking the president again moments ago about the tensions with Iran a day after new U.S. sanctions were announced. The president saying he hopes Iran understood the message behind the sanctions and that they can't be allowed to have a path to nuclear weapons. This is Fox News.
Pros do it right by relying on trusted brands to get the job done. Lowe's is here to help with more of those brands in stock, like DeWalt. We stock the largest in-store selection of DeWalt power tools and accessories of any national retailer. Shop July 4th savings and get a DeWalt 20-volt max 2-tool combo kit for just $179. And save $10 on a DeWalt Tough Grip 27-piece steel hex shank screwdriver bit set now for just $9.98. Do it right for less. Start with Lowe's. Offers valid through 7/3 U.S. only.
Some job recruitment sites overload your inbox with resumes. Glassdoor knows not just any will do. From 62 million job seekers, Glassdoor only matches you with qualified candidates who have the skills and experience your small business needs to grow. In fact, Glassdoor hires are 30% more likely to stay with your company longer. And Glassdoor can help you find that perfect candidate in half the resumes. Go to glassdoor.com/hire. Glassdoor. Find the right fit for your business.
Illinois becomes the 11th state to legalize recreational marijuana. Fox's Jeff Manasso has this live.
Lisa, Illinois is the state's new governor, J.B. Pritzker, delivering a top campaign promise and legalizing recreational pot.
Change is hard, but an essential tenet of good governance is recognizing the need to change the laws that have failed.
Marijuana legalization goes into effect January 1 and means that hundreds of thousands of criminal records could be expunged. Police in Illinois are wary, though it's also believed that marijuana sales would mean a financial boon for the state that's buried in debt. Lisa.
Thanks, Jeff. The pickup truck driver accused in the crash that killed 7 motorcyclists in New Hampshire enters a plea on negligent homicide charges.
A lawyer has pleaded not guilty on behalf of Volodymyr Zhukovsky. He is currently in jail in Lancaster, New Hampshire. He was transferred there after his arrest yesterday at his Massachusetts home. A criminal complaint says Zhukovsky's driving was erratic when he crossed the center line of a 2-lane road and hit the members of a motorcycle club for Marines and their spouses. Within the last decade, Zhukovsky has been stopped twice under suspicion for drunken driving. He also waived his right to a preliminary hearing, leading a judge to set Zhukovsky's trial to start in November. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
One other note from the White House at this hour, President Trump telling reporters he thinks his newly announced press secretary will be fantastic. It was First Lady Melania Trump earlier today who confirmed via a tweet that Stephanie Grisham, her press secretary, is going to replace Sarah Sanders as the White House press secretary. She had been part of the president's transition team. An hour to the close on Wall Street, a sell-off. The Dow's down 144. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With a look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge City Council at their meeting last night entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Insurance Division regarding the Fort Dodge Memorial Park Cemetery. The Iowa Insurance Division is in the process of pursuing receivership of the property. Alan Dorothy last month informed city officials that he was out of business and was no longer taking care of the cemetery, with the city receiving multiple complaints in the last few weeks of May about overgrown grass. Under the terms of the memorandum, the city will maintain the cemetery's maps and records, maintain the cemetery buildings and grounds, as well as mow the site. The state will reimburse the city $35,000. The city recently hired Jeff Lawn and Still Care of Rolfe to mow the cemetery at a cost of $11,000. Once the Iowa Insurance Division gains control of the site through the receivership process, it'll seek a new owner. If a new owner cannot be found, the cemetery will become city property. Well, the latest crop report shows the corn's planted and all across the state, and soybeans are not that far behind. Art Danielson with more.
Just 2% of the corn planting remained going into last week, and farmers are now looking for some good warm growing days. 96% of the corn has emerged. That's 2 weeks behind where we were last year at this time and 15 days behind the 5-year average. Report shows still about 5% of the soybeans remain to be planted. 81% of the beans that have been planted have emerged. That's also 2 weeks behind last year. The corn condition is reported at 62% good to excellent, while beans are at 63%. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A farmer from West Central Iowa's Greene County is taking the helm of the Iowa Soybean Association this fall, but it comes with trepidation. Incoming President Tim Bardole of RIPI says these are very challenging times for soybean farmers.
It's going to be a tough year. The association is funded from the soybean checkoff, a lot of it. And with the low prices, tough planting season, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of budget issues.
Many commodities have seen poor prices for several straight years, and they're slow to recover, while Bardole says recent tariffs and trade troubles have made the matters worse.
We need worldwide free trade. The U.S. farmer, even in tough times, we're very, very good at producing soybeans and all the other agricultural products. U.S. definitely feeds the world.
Bardole took a trip to China earlier this year and saw up close how that country's enormous numbers depend heavily on American growers.
I've been to Malaysia and the Philippines. The world very much depends on U.S. agriculture for the good of their population.
Bardole will take office in September. He comes from a farming family, and his father was the president of the ISA in the late 1980s. The Ankeny-based Iowa Soybean Association has 11,000 members. 2 Central Iowa judges are being asked this week to overturn 2 recently passed state laws. The League of United Latin American Citizens and Iowa State University student Taylor Blair asking a Polk County District judge to strike down 3 parts of the law Republicans passed in 2017, including the requirement that voters show an ID at the polls. Attorney Bruce Spiva says these provisions put burdens on the right to vote that outweigh any potential benefits.
The unjustified hurdles that HF 516 place in front of the ballot box will disproportionately trip those voters who are young, voters who are elderly, poor, lacking in educational attainment, minorities, women, and Democrats.
A lawyer for the state says these regulations are tailored to protect the integrity of Iowa's elections and instill public confidence in the process. Matt Gannon is Assistant Attorney General for the state of Iowa.
They apply to all voters in a uniform and non-discriminatory manner and are properly tailored to advance legitimate state interests.
Now, the trial is expected to last 2 weeks. Another judge at another Polk County District courtroom heard arguments about a law passed on the last day of the 2019 legislative session. The law gives the governor authority to name another member to the 17-member commission that nominates candidates for openings on the Iowa Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. A group of Democratic lawmakers argues Republicans are trying to stack the deck for Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Assistant Attorney General argued in court Monday that the state constitution gives Republican lawmakers authority to change the makeup for the commission. And as one of his colleagues proposes wiping out all college debt for 45 million Americans, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley asked, where will it end? Wipe out all the home mortgages? Grassley, a Republican, says the legislation offered by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who's running for president, is at first glance impractical and upon closer inspection, contrary to what Democrat Sanders is fighting for.
I would be surprised about a very liberal person like Sanders that's always complaining about the 1% wealthy, the billionaires. This would benefit the rich and middle class the most, and not necessarily helping those that he's always trying to help.
Sanders' bill, called the College for All Act, would wipe out $1.6 billion in debt. The rationale is without that debt, college graduates could spend their earnings on other things like houses that would stimulate the economy. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Mainly clear this afternoon with a high of 83. Westerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies and quiet again tonight. Lows level off around 59. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow 85. Mid-80s Thursday with a chance for scattered thunderstorms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
Attention to this important announcement. If you have ever taken prescriptions like Adderall and are concerned about the side effects and high cost, now there's a new all-natural smart pill available that's the closest thing to a safe, real-life, limitless pill. It's so powerful and effective that students, athletes, and execs all want to get their hands on it. It's called Limitless, a Coastline product, and it's truly remarkable. It can help skyrocket your concentration, improve your creative thinking, enhance your memory, and make you feel like a better version of yourself. Call and find out how to get a free bottle of Limitless and experience this firsthand. It's not a question of whether this powerful pill works, but how great it can make you feel. Take it and watch it go to work. Limitless may be the best kept secret available today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041. 800-681-9041.
Enjoy all of Adventureland's rides, shows, and attractions, including the Phoenix. Our new spinning roller coaster coming in June. Fun for the whole family. 2 great parks, all for one low price. Open daily at 10 a.m. in Des Moines.
Come on over to Adventureland. You're gonna love it at Adventureland.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
That's right. I am making radio great again. As a matter of fact, I think I've done it. Radio, once again, is great because of me. Of course, not everybody agrees with that, but what do they know? Anyway, what a beautiful day. Steve Peterson will be on a little bit later on from the Farm Bureau, and he'll no doubt exult in the fact that we have great weather, and we're looking for some pretty warm days through the weekend, and that's what the crops need, certainly. This half hour, of course, is the time we talk to Fort Dodge Police Chief Roger Porter. How you doing, Roger?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm outstanding. I did want to ask you a couple of things about fireworks since we were talking off mic, and I mentioned that I was sleeping very soundly, and some fireworks went off, probably half a block, a bunch of them, about half a block from my place. It didn't bother me. I went back to sleep. I would have just as soon not had that, but that's the way it is. When is the official first day of fireworks now? We're coming right up on it. Can you believe we're almost the 4th of July?
Yeah. No, it's coming up. We were just talking about that at staff this morning. Where you got it, it's posted on our website. Captain Grunberg is working with Peter Kaspari from the Messenger. They're going to be doing a article on fireworks and what the city ordinance is and all that. Here should be coming out in the paper here this weekend, I believe.
This weekend?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's all there.
All right.
Right now, it's on our Facebook. And I was just trying to
Fort Dodge Police.
July 1st, yeah. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd from 5 to 10 p.m. and July 4th from 5 to 11 p.m. is when you can legally light them off.
Okay. What? There was some shooting downtown over the weekend. Thursday night, Friday night?
Yeah.
Did we ever find out who was responsible for that? Or
Well, we're still investigating that case. We do have a lot of leads and stuff, and then we're investigating it. Put it that way for right now.
But there's no arrest been made or
Not
anything
yet.
like that.
Not yet.
I did want to ask you about marijuana. Not when is it going to happen or anything. Well, it's going to happen in Iowa sooner or later.
Seems to be happening a lot.
It happens.
More states are bringing it in every year.
I think they're closing in on us here,
Yeah.
Roger. Illinois has allowed the commercial sales of marijuana for recreational use. I understand Minnesota is set to follow very soon. That affects us, or it affects law enforcement, of course, because marijuana is not legal in the state of Iowa. But it's going to come in every highway that crosses a border.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be bringing some marijuana over here, and some of it will probably be in a quantity. Their friends are going to pool their money or whatever. Hey, and they're bringing a couple of pounds back or whatever. So, has the state of Iowa or the Fort Dodge Police Department, the Webster County Sheriff, do you know if there's any plans or how is the state going to handle this new reality over there?
I haven't heard of any plans yet, and I haven't. I'm not sure. Like you said, it seems like it's going to be a matter of time before it happens. I don't know what the legislators are thinking or anything like that at this point, but you do see it popping up around, it's Colorado, and then now you're getting in these other states that are, bordering Iowa right now. Uh,
I even heard Nebraska, which kind of surprises me. I kind of thought that Nebraska was a more conservative state.
And I'm sure there's a
than
lot of,
Iowa.
there's going to, it's going to be changes in laws. There's still going to be some, just like anything else, if the state legalizes it, you're still going to have to do certain things and bringing it in truckloads. Like you said, if friends pool their money together, I would imagine that that's not legal, but who knows? I don't know, for sale and stuff like that. You still have to I'm sure there's going to be some laws and stuff that are going to be enacted along with it. So we'd have to wait and see what happens there.
Well, it'll be illegal in Iowa. Yeah. I mean, they can bring a trunk load across the border of Illinois. It sounds kind of funny to say all of a sudden we're talking the border, Illinois.
No.
But it's still illegal in Iowa with the same penalties, I suppose, as
And
it's
you
always
still
been.
see that from Colorado. They get their I-80. There's a lot of that's a big pipeline for that type of stuff, and they see a lot of it over there. I've talked to officers from over in Nebraska that see a lot of that, and even in Iowa, they make it back to Iowa still.
Sure. Well, that's believe me, I know that there's been an illegal drug trade in the state of Iowa and in the United States for a long, long, long time. I came out of those years when everybody thought they had to smoke pot to be cool. Everybody in college smoked pot. In the military, it seemed we were a high nation there for a while. We kind of got a hold of ourselves a little bit. But I think the federal government, one way or the other, is going to have to take a stand on this.
Yeah, well,
the federal drug laws, I don't believe, have changed
They
one
haven't
whit.
changed at all. No, even in Colorado, from what I understand, you can't keep the revenue you source for marijuana in federal banks. You can't keep them in a bank because it's
Illegal
for federal
proceeds.
law. Yeah, so according to federal law. So, but yeah, they still make it work. I'm not sure where they're keeping it, but
I don't
still
know.
Make it work. So
I just have my one friend from high school who moved out to Washington State, and Washington State was one of the first. And boy, the stores, there were old abandoned convenience stores in small buildings, and they were turned into marijuana stores immediately. He took us on tours of those stores. You guys want to go and see? Well, of course we did.
Sure.
And it was like any other store that sold a product, counters and different types of marijuana was there, different sizes, different types, on and on and on. And he said, "You can buy it here." And I said, "Yeah, but what would I do when I got on the plane?" I don't know if that would work.
You might have a little trouble there.
Yeah, I might. I'd be more concerned about what I don't think flying back from Washington State to Iowa with 2 pounds of weed or something is still looked on by the authorities as a great idea. So no, we did not bring any back.
Yeah,
from
good call.
Washington. Yeah, it was. Yeah, absolutely not. I guess a little bit too old to get busted for that sort of nonsense. Anyway, I'm kind of past that point in life anyway. If you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
You don't see me hanging out in the bars anymore. No, I'm not going to get stoned and watch The Exorcist on TV.
No.
But there is one thing, and I guess I'm going to have to plead to a little bit of hypocrisy here, because I have driven drunk when I was young, and I regret it. I regret it very, very much. But those who smoke marijuana, they're probably not as sharp as they should be to drive a car. So the question I have for you is, do the Fort Dodge police undergo any sort of training to spray? It's not as easy with alcohol. You can, if somebody's blitzed on whiskey, they're at red eye, slurred speech. It's not necessarily the case with somebody who's been smoking marijuana. So do the officers have training in how to spot that?
When we go through our initial training down at the academy, they give you, what to look for during sobriety tests as far as alcohol goes. And they also include narcotics, pupil size of the eyes and things like that, some signs to look for. We also have officers that go through a more advanced course. Once they get back, it's called DRE school, Drug Recognition Expert School, and they have to go through a number of things. Having that great working relationship with the Iowa State Patrol, if we have a question on it or, a concern, they can come in and maybe validate that with the training that they've had. So, we have some avenues to look at in assistance with that. So that's nothing new, that's something that's been ongoing. So.
Has anybody ever been arrested in Fort Dodge for driving under the influence of marijuana?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, they'll come back, when we get the request, the blood sample or the urine sample, and they come back with traces of any type of drug, some of them being marijuana, then they suspect them under the influence of that, and seen a lot of Iowa State Patrol has done a lot of those too. So
I guess I just see the driving under the influence arrests. I never thought it could be for marijuana.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I never thought.
I think when you see those in the paper, it doesn't say what 99% of them are for alcohol related offenses.
I'm sure. Yeah,
it's going to say the same thing in the back of the paper if it's for if they're under the influence of a drug or a narcotic or something as well.
Yeah, today is the day they put out the magistrate court. That's impressive.
A lot of times it's a combination of the two.
Yeah, I suppose it is.
Or whatever's on.
Here's operating under the influence. What looks like 3-4 people here, but it doesn't say anything about under the influence of what.
Right.
Anyway,
it all falls under the same code initially. So driving code.
AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Our guest is Chief of Police Roger Porter. If you have a question for the chief, that's fine. Call 515-955-1400. No silly questions like, what, can you get my brother out of jail or some silly thing. If you just have a question about police work in Fort Dodge, it's 515-955-1400. So I guess we're getting ready for fireworks season. I'm good. I don't like the sound of fireworks at 1:30 in the morning any more than anybody else, any more or less than anybody else. And I don't like the idea that what happened, especially what happened the first year. I was so embarrassed for our town. A bunch of bozos blowing up the whole town. That's just embarrassing.
Yeah.
So I hope we can use fireworks more responsibly this year. But if they don't, what should we do, Roger?
You call the police, and we'll do our best to catch them.
All right.
Obviously, we're not going to catch them all, but the deterrence for the fines would be enough for me to not do. I mean, the first offense is
they're pretty big.
By the time you get done with court costs and all that, the first offense you're looking at around $760 for a fine, and
$760 first offense,
and second offense with the court costs and everything, you're looking at over $1,000. So that's a lot of money just to be shooting off fireworks. And if you get caught, you're going to be. It's a steep fine.
What's the penalty for third offense? Death.
I think the code reads
firing squad.
Second or subsequent offense is this charge or that fine. So anything after that is going to be the $1,000 fine that you're looking at. So it's a pretty steep fine. So I'm hoping, I'm trying to think back this time last year. It seemed like we were getting a lot more calls than we are right now. We have been getting some firework calls here recently. So. And I think we wrote at least one ticket last night that I'm aware of, but they're starting to come in. So I just want everybody to have fun with their fireworks and have fun with the 4th of July. I just don't want anybody to have to pay a $760 or $1,000 fine. So do it responsibly.
Well, and I don't think we need any fools out there, and that's exactly what they are. They're people with no respect for anybody, blowing up entire neighborhoods and annoying everyone purposely a lot of times.
Yeah.
The old. Well, St. Edmund owns it now, but the old North Junior High field over there, I had constant problems over there the first 2 years. Young kids think that field means they can go over there and blow up everything in the world. It sounds like they're shooting off mortars over there or howitzers sometimes. But believe me, if they're over there again this year, I'm putting this out so you guys won't do it. But if you do, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police. So what else we got going as far as police work or anything we should know?
Well, you got the Country Jam that's coming up here soon. I can't remember the exact date on that one.
Downtown Country Jam. Isn't that in the fall more?
Yeah. But then we got firework, the firework display that's being put on out at Fort Frenzy. That's July 3rd. So that'll be
great.
Big show out there. And I think Fort Frenzy puts on a concert or something out there too.
They do.
At the same time. So, but the fireworks will be, I think it's 9 to 11 slated somewhere as soon as it gets dark. But you usually get quite a few people out there, and again, just like any other big event, just bear with the traffic. You might be told to go one direction, so you drive around the block and take a couple extra minutes to get home when it's over with. But as long as everybody's safe and gets out of there safely and nobody gets hurt, we'll all have fun.
Yeah, that would kind of spoil the evening if somebody got hurt.
Nobody wants to get hurt.
Nobody wants to get hurt. So.
And I've seen some recent pictures of what hurt can look like when you mishandle a firework or whatnot, and they're not pretty.
Oh, Here's another suggestion, and I have to, and I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here because I have lit off fireworks while drinking in my youth a long time ago. But I've seen a couple of stories in the last couple of years. Fireworks have been legal in the state of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody got hurt pretty bad because they were drinking and using, some pretty powerful fireworks.
Yeah.
And I mean, by hurt, blinded, and those sort of things. think I told you that one poor guy had a tube or something.
And we had one that lost a hand or lost part of
Oh,
a hand
no.
or something. So, I mean, yeah, they're
Here in town?
Yeah, they're not, I mean, they are fireworks and you can buy them out of the tent and everything or the shops or whatever, but they're very powerful. It's
Very
like a small
powerful.
piece of, some of those are like a piece of dynamite or small piece of dynamite. They can cause some definite harm to you or death, like you said. So.
What is it? Poor guy down in southeastern Iowa, I think. He had a tube fireworks and he lit it. The fireworks didn't. Yeah, and he looked down the tube drinking, and he's blind now. And what, that's just, boy, talk about a lousy way to end the 4th.
Yeah,
that's awful. Just
that's a life-altering event right there.
Yeah, it is. It is. Roger Porter's been our guest, Chief of Police here in Fort Dodge. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. News coming up. Then Steve Peterson with the Farm Bureau.
Blockchain has been slow to take off. Hello, I'm Ken Anderson with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. Blockchain was a big buzzword in agricultural discussions in 2018, but that buzz has softened considerably in recent months. A few ag and food-related companies have announced blockchain projects, but for the most part, it hasn't taken off as some had expected. We'll discuss it with Tanner Emke, manager of the Knowledge Exchange Division at CoBank, right after this.
Here's that song again. Here's that song again. For the 100th time today. Here's that song again. It's gonna be stuck in your head all day. Here's that song again. It will make you cray cray.
You love your kids enough to watch that TV show a bajillion times. Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat for their age and size. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Tanner Emke with CoBank talks about what blockchain does.
Well, blockchain is a distributed ledger technology, which basically means information that would normally be kept on one set of books is instead shared on multiple computers, thereby allowing multiple people in a supply chain to have the same visibility of all the same documents. And that can be beneficial through reducing the chance of errors and mistakes and fraud, to potentially creating value throughout the supply chain. And in agriculture, the value that could be extended all the way down to farmers and ranchers and all the way up to consumers.
Emke says blockchain is being used by Walmart to track leafy greens and by Cargill internally, but hasn't been picked up industry-wide in the commodity sector.
I think that's the challenge when you're looking at commodity trading, is because commodities are commingled from multiple locations and sent through a very vast network of handlers and shippers. And that has complicated the adoption of blockchain. Now, that doesn't mean it won't happen, but there's a lot of hurdles that have to be overcome for it to really materialize.
And Emke tells Brownfield most farmers don't see a need for it.
Really think about it. If you're a farmer and the current system of marketing your grain works for you, why do you need to use blockchain? Most people just don't need it. Think about how a farmer sells grain. Do you need to commit something to a blockchain? No, you just call up your co-op and sell some grain on the phone. I mean, that's a very efficient, trustworthy system. Now, for some farmers who want to connect with sellers and they are able to segment out their commodities, this may at some point down the future be of value to them. The bigger gain longer term, and we're talking many years in the future, is that blockchain might be an opportunity for buyers to have visibility of value all the way down to the farm level. Now, that's going to require some evolution of the supply chain. That's going to require segmentation where buyers can see value that has been documented and that information committed to the blockchain, where they could see things like oil content or protein content and potentially pay more for that so the farmer can receive greater value. But that takes a lot of evolution in the supply chain for something like that to happen.
That's Tanner Emke with CoBank. And that's Managing for Profit on Brownfield, Ag News for America.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With a look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge City Council at their meeting last night entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Insurance Division regarding the Fort Dodge Memorial Park Cemetery. The Iowa Insurance Division is in the process of pursuing receivership of the property. Alan Dorothy last month informed city officials that he was out of business and was no longer taking care of the cemetery, with the city receiving multiple complaints in the last few weeks of May about overgrown grass. Under the terms of the memorandum, the city will maintain the cemetery's maps and records, maintain the cemetery buildings and grounds, as well as mow the site. The state will reimburse the city $35,000. The city recently hired Jeff's Lawn and Still Care of Rolfe to mow the cemetery at a cost of $11,000. Once the Iowa Insurance Division gains control of the site through the receivership process, it'll seek a new owner. If a new owner cannot be found, the cemetery will become city property. Well, the latest crop report shows the corn's planted and all across the state, and soybeans are not that far behind. Art Danielson with more.
Just 2% of the corn planting remained going into last week, and farmers are now looking for some good warm growing days. 96% of the corn has emerged. That's 2 weeks behind where we were last year at this time and 15 days behind the 5-year average. Report shows still about 5% of the soybeans remain to be planted. 81% of the beans that have been planted have emerged. That's also 2 weeks behind last year. The corn condition is reported at 62% good to excellent, while beans are at 63%. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A farmer from West Central Iowa's Greene County is taking the helm of the Iowa Soybean Association this fall, but it comes with trepidation. Incoming President Tim Bardole of Rippey says these are very challenging times for soybean farmers.
It's going to be a tough year. The association is funded from the soybean checkoff, a lot of it. And with the low prices, tough planting season, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of budget issues.
Many commodities have seen poor prices for several straight years, and they're slow to recover, while Bardole says recent tariffs and trade troubles have made the matters worse.
We need worldwide free trade. The U.S. farmer, even in tough times, we're very, very good at producing soybeans and all the other agricultural products. U.S. definitely feeds the world.
Bardole took a trip to China earlier this year and saw up close how that country's enormous numbers depend heavily on American growers.
I've been to Malaysia and the Philippines. The world very much depends on U.S. agriculture for the good of their population.
Bardole will take office in September. He comes from a farming family, and his father was the president of the ISA in the late 1980s. The Ankeny-based Iowa Soybean Association has 11,000 members. 2 Central Iowa judges are being asked this week to overturn 2 recently passed state laws. The League of United Latin American Citizens and Iowa State University student Taylor Blair are asking a Polk County District Judge to strike down 3 parts of a law Republicans passed in 2017, including the requirement that voters show an ID at the polls. Attorney Bruce Spiva says these provisions put burdens on the right to vote that outweigh any potential benefits.
The unjustified hurdles that HF 516 place in front of the ballot box will disproportionately trip those voters who are young, voters who are elderly, poor, lacking in educational attainment, minorities, women, and Democrats.
A lawyer for the state says these regulations are tailored to protect the integrity of Iowa's elections and instill public confidence in the process. Matt Gannon is Assistant Attorney General for the state of Iowa.
They apply to all voters in a uniform and non-discriminatory manner and are properly tailored to advance legitimate state interests.
Now, the trial is expected to last 2 weeks. Another judge at another Polk County District courtroom heard arguments about a law passed on the last day of the 2019 legislative session. The law gives the governor authority to name another member to the 17-member commission that nominates candidates for openings on the Iowa Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. A group of Democratic lawmakers argues Republicans are trying to stack the deck for Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Assistant Attorney General argued in court Monday that the state constitution gives Republican lawmakers authority to change the makeup for the commission. And as one of his colleagues proposes wiping out all college debt for 45 million Americans, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley asked, where will it end? Wipe out all the home mortgages? Grassley, a Republican, says the legislation offered by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who's running for president, is at first glance impractical and upon closer inspection, contrary to what Democrat Sanders is fighting for.
I would be surprised about a very liberal person like Sanders that's always complaining about the 1% wealthy, the billionaires. This would benefit the rich and middle class the most, and not necessarily helping those that he's always trying to help.
Sanders' bill, called the College for All Act, would wipe out $1.6 billion in debt. The rationale is without that debt, college graduates could spend their earnings on other things like houses that would stimulate the economy. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Yeah, excuse me. AM 1400 KVFD. Open up the microphone and have a coughing fit. That's great. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 81 degrees. Steve Peterson from the Farm Bureau is here. We'll talk with Steve in a minute. Going to be sunny this afternoon, 83 for a high. Overnight, mostly clear with a low of 60. Tomorrow, slight chance of rain, mostly sunny with a high of 85. We're getting there now. Thursday, a slight chance of rain. We'll have, these little clouds moving over us and dropping some rain and moving on. The high on Thursday will be 85. Friday, sunny with a high of 90. Now we're talking. Saturday, sunny, maybe 95 degrees under a sunny sky this weekend. On Sunday, it'll be sunny with a high of 90. Monday, sunny with a high of 87. That's music to the farmers' ears all over our area. 81 degrees right now at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. Mr. Bob Foster has passed away. Bob Foster died at the age of 89 on June 20th at the Briarwood Health Care Center in Iowa City. Mr. Foster, I should say Reverend Foster, was the pastor at Duncombe Vincent Lutheran Parish until 1993. He and his wife retired back to the Iowa City area, and Mr. Foster has passed away. Peggy Moore, 95 years old of Fort Dodge, died on Sunday at the Oak View Care Center in Conrad. There will be a funeral service for Margaret Moore, and that'll take place Monday the 15th at Corpus Christi Church here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services at 1615 North 15th Street, Fort Dodge. You may contact Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services by calling 515-576-7128 or online at www.gundersonfuneralhome.com. 238 AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 81 degrees. With a look at the closing market report, here's Dwayne Murley.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn up 3/4 at 447.5. September up 1 1/4 cents at 453. December up 1/4 cent at 457.5. March down a penny at 462, and May corn down 2 1/4 at 463. July soybeans down 5 1/2 at 903.5. August down 6 cents at 908 3/4. September down 6 at 914.5. November down 6 1/4 at 926.5, and January down 7 1/4 at 938 1/4. Soybean meal down 190 a ton at 315.70. June live cattle up 82 at 107.75. August up 82 cents at 103 1/4. August feeder cattle down 45 at 131.32. September down 47 at 131.87. July lean hogs up 155 at 74.40, and August up 195 at 76.17. I'm Dwayne Murley.
There are 7.7 billion people on this planet. How will we sustain a growing population? In America's Cultivation Corridor, we aren't waiting for someone else to figure it out. Here in Iowa, we're growing more in less space, investing billions in game-changing ag innovation, and ensuring everyone has the resources needed to make a global difference. The future depends on us, and we don't take that lightly. Iowa is America's Cultivation Corridor, where science feeds the world.
Are you more than $10,000 in debt? Feel like you're on a never-ending treadmill, staying in one place and never getting ahead with those minimum payments? Don't let the credit card companies bully you anymore. There are programs in place to help you get free of your debt, and you don't have to pay the entire amount you owe. The program at Total Financial Freedom can help you get debt-free in months instead of decades. Call Total Financial now at 800-899-8922. That's 800-899-8922.
Have you heard? New as of July 1st, grain bins will be sales tax exempt in Iowa. The Sukup team thanks the Iowa legislature for backing the ag industry in our home state. With a recent jump in corn prices, now is the time to take advantage of Sukup bins. They're ready to ship, letting you take charge of your grain and maximize your profits. Visit Sukup.com. That's SUKUP.com to find your local Sukup dealer today and learn how we can help you store now, profit later.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We are the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we believe in nurturing our state's most precious resource, our children. That's why we provide millions of dollars in scholarships, grants, and resources to Iowa students and teachers. For more information, contact your local county farm bureau.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to confess?
At AM 1400 KVFD.
All right, this is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Summer started the other day, I think the 21st, but today is really the first day I felt it. And yeah, we're going to have some rainy weather the next day or two, but through the weekend, we should be okay. We should be more than okay. We should have corn growing weather. On that very note, let's go to Steve Peterson, who is a past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau. And by the way, this portion of the program is brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. So, Steve, this is good news for the weather.
This is finally summer is here.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
And
Our corn and beans, they are really appreciating the weather that we have right now. We're probably somewhere between 2 to 3 weeks behind, just in heat units.
Yeah.
So it's we need everything we can get right now, but this is what I would say one of the first truly warm days that it's felt in a long time.
Well, this is, and again, you heard the weather forecast as I was reading it just a few minutes ago. It's supposed to be in the 90s,
sure,
lower 90s, maybe mid 90s on Sunday. So that's definitely corn growing weather.
Yes, it is.
I mean, the more miserable it is for human beings, the better it is for corn. It seems like.
to a point. And I even seen some lightning bugs the other night. Which,
oh no,
that's kind
what
of
does that mean?
Well, for a farmer, there's two things. One, summer's officially here, but the other thing is it takes so many heat units to hatch a lightning bug, like a lot of other things. But that also means that we also have some other pests that are hatching also. So we have corn rootworms now that we'll have to be looking for, and that can be a big problem this year with all the different sized corn. We do have a lot of corn that's very, very small, and even though some of the corn we buy traits, so some of the corn is more resistant or tolerant to rootworms and different pests like that. That's built into the corn. It doesn't express those traits when the corn's so small, because normally the corn's a lot smaller when these things come out. So that it could be a concern, and I know there's going to be quite a bit of attention paid to things like that. But over the last week, we really haven't had any working days, I would say, in the field. The fields have stayed pretty saturated. There's a lot of widespread areas got anywhere from 2 to 4 inches over the last week. So I did hear one farmer at our local elevator, they were hauling dry urea, which is a nitrogen, up to the airport, and they were applying with airplanes. So that
applying
the supplemental nitrogen with airplanes, because
Why?
The fields are too wet to get out there,
Oh.
and the corn is at a stage where it needs to go. For whatever reason, they might not have got their nitrogen source on to begin with. So there's some measures being taken like that, but all in all, this is very welcome weather for farmers.
Yeah, it is.
I seen a lot of machine shed doors open today, and a lot of equipment look like being shuffled around. So I think the planting window, I think we can say, is probably behind us. I would think so by now. Well,
yeah.
July is going to be next week, so it's a lot of equipment's being put away, and some preparations and stuff will even start being thought about for the harvest this fall. But,
Always, yeah.
But it's always a good time when you can officially put the planter away for the year.
I can't believe we're this close to the 4th of July already, mainly because we didn't have a spring. We didn't. We have a few days of summer, and the rest of the time it's pretty cold.
It doesn't seem like the last few years we've really had the seasons like are traditionally known.
Yeah.
We seem just to transition in one to another, and usually springs have been almost non-existent.
They have.
So
they have.
But this weather's welcome, and hopefully we can make up a little ground. It's going to be challenging at best, but we need to rifle these crops right along. Otherwise, you're going to start hearing some talk. I have different models that show how my crop is progressing. We start getting into October, it can be a wild card too of frost.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother discussion for another day. But that's all, it's kind of in the back of minds of a lot of people is, can we finish this crop off or it's very high probability that we're going to be dealing with a crop that's a little wetter than normal.
Oh, I would think.
And,
yeah.
that has challenges of its own for both the producer and the commercial guy, handling it and storing it. I've been, making preparations on my own equipment to kind of prepare myself for, drying and storage of a wetter crop than I've been used to.
Sure.
So just, it's not common, but it's something that we, are looking at in agriculture right now.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. Our guest is Steve Peterson with the Webster County Farm Bureau. I'm preparing to do a series of broadcasts on glyphosate and this whole nonsense that's going out in California. This is the glyphosate does not cause cancer, from what I understand. The research that is feeding the lawyers out there in California and rendering lawsuits against Monsanto or from a French company whose methods are under discussion.
Yep.
But the Environmental Working Group here in Iowa is doing the same thing. And I'm bringing these two things up for one reason. First of all, lawyers are going to sue somebody. I know plenty of lawyers here in town, and I love the guys, and they're great guys, but they have, the way they make money is suits against Monsanto and that sort of thing. And that's what this was. It was, millions of dollars were transferred from the southern states to the western states.
Yeah, there's been
due to the smoking thing a few years ago.
Sure, and there's been a couple successful lawsuits in the western side of the United States,
in California, only in California,
specifically to California. The EPA and all United States government agencies have reaffirmed that glyphosate, which is commonly known as Roundup, it has posed no risk to human health. What some of these groups are doing is they're trying to bleed this into other agencies. I know I've been contacted numerous times by different legal deals trying to get onto a class action lawsuit.
They want you to say that you've been affected by Roundup.
Sure. The Environmental Working Group, they've done, that's compiled some of their opinions of research, and they've come up right now, and they've taken some different aspects because they've gone after Roundup residue and say cereals, and they're really reaching on some fronts trying to, I guess, bring it home.
Sure.
Again, they're challenging the EPA standard of, I believe the EPA standard is 30 parts per million, and they want it set at 0.1 parts per million. So, it's a big difference.
That's a big difference.
Big difference.
But they're portraying themselves as the saviors of society. They're not. They're guys trying to make money.
It's a novel tactic. I think
you're a little bit nicer guy than I am, aren't you? Novel tactic.
It's a novel tactic.
No, it's not really.
But they are an activist group. I think in all of our local and state news organizations was the nitrates in the tap water with a link to cancer. And
we've moved up from only little tiny babies can be affected by the nitrates, and then at ridiculously high levels, to now they cause cancer.
Right. And a lot of the news organizations that took their paper that they submitted, well, they even failed to submit exactly what their paper said, because in their paper there was a lot of mays and maybe and could be's, and in their own words they said some other studies do not show links between nitrates and cancer. So it's kind of in how it's portrayed, and again, they are wanting to change the nitrate levels that the EPA says is safe. Right now, as we all know around here, it was 10 parts per million.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to move it to 0.14, which is 70 times less than that. So it's the same kind of tactic that they're using on the glyphosate arena that they're kind of pulling over to the nitrate side of things. But the nitrate it's not any new studies from what I could see. It looks like a reinterpretation of a lot of older information. So it's a group that seems to have a reputation for being a little loose with some facts.
You are a lot nicer guy than I am.
but it has made some headlines. And that's frustrating, and that's a big thing with Farm Bureau is it's hard to get out and attack, or you're not attack, but try to correct and get the correct message out there. There was also some information in the last couple weeks about the amount of Iowa ranked number 1 and number 2, I think was the headline. And there was a study done that had the population of Iowa and the population of all the animals being the number 1 country for waste. And that was a little misleading, on the facts. At Farm Bureau, our Lori Johns, she's done a couple articles lately kind of laying out some groundwork how that was a little misinterpreted, because the problem is that animal waste has a value to Iowa agriculture.
Right.
Human waste has no value. And so if you
so when you say you're worthless and you use the word, they really do mean that you're worthless.
In a matter of speaking,
you are crap worthless. Whoa, that's pretty worthless.
So if you kind of reevaluate that statement, because in Iowa, we use the manure and farming practices for fertilizer, and we have about 30.5 million acres of cropland in Iowa. That's about 85.5% of all the land we have in Iowa. We actually only have enough manure to do about 25% of that. So in theory, you could double the entire hog herd of Iowa, which I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. But in theory,
we don't care about that.
You could double the number of hogs and still be only half of the acres applied. In theory, if how you want to spin numbers, and some of these numbers get spun. And then the other thing is Iowa's used the swine industry and the chickens, and we're right up there in the country, is leading a lot of these things. They're consuming our crops. It's a big industry. It's a big jobs market for our economy here in Iowa.
Sure.
And they did some polls, and here in Iowa, they said 9 out of 10, 95% of Iowa grocery shoppers eat meat weekly. There's a lot of meat eaters, and the average person eats 18 pounds of bacon a year. That seems a little heavy, but
not to me.
But each pig only produces about 10 pounds of bacon.
Oh, really?
So the argument that, when pigs outnumber people, well, we need that just to supply
the bacon
for the consumption of the consumer.
Sure.
So, and even back when because a lot of people are, they make a point that there's more pigs than people in Iowa, but it's been that way clear back into the I think the earliest census, 1925, there was 4 times as many pigs as there were population.
In 1925.
Right.
Wow.
So it's nothing new. It's but with modern agriculture and and the manure is it's soil sample, it's tested. It's not just a blanket spread out there. So, but some of these groups have been taking information, and they're trying to sway public opinion through a very creative headline, and it catches on sometimes.
Sure.
So, there's seems like we've been spending a lot of time trying to get to the facts. I know Lori, in her article, she had a pretty good statement. She said, and she was quoted because she was a journalist before she worked for Farm Bureau, and this John Nesbitt said, "We're drowning in information but starving for knowledge." And that seems to be what we're seeing through some of the organizations that are lining up against agriculture. It's kind of stretching some facts and being a little, careless with some of the information.
It's what happens when academics allow themselves to be drawn into a political arena. They use their credential, they use their scholarship, and to tell us, here's the facts.
Right.
When that's not the case. David Osterberg, even who's a big fan of the Environmental Working Group, will say exactly the same thing.
The paper that the Environmental Working Group put forward itself, I would say, is more factual than what some of the news organizations drew off of that very article, because they you leave out the word may and just put it can cause cancer, and that changes the whole narrative statement of that sentence. So their own paper to me is a little more truthful or accurate than what some of the news organizations and headlines that I've seen in the last week. So that's a little alarming to me that even some of the other organizations are editing out and adding to a few things to meet their narrative.
This doesn't really have anything to do with farming, but according to a Republican website, the Chief Justice of the Iowa Supreme Court, Mark Cady, was involved in lobbying efforts to defeat a change in how we pick judges in the state of Iowa. Now, that would mean that the judiciary is politicized.
Political.
But I haven't seen it in any of the newspapers. I haven't seen it on television, which means there's either a problem with the facts or the major news outlets in Iowa don't want to carry that.
Right.
They don't want to carry that.
And that seems to be, I know we ask our members a lot of time, where do they get their information? And because sometimes I think if, unfortunately, information, especially on if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. I mean, I think a lot of people are getting a little bit past that narrative.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Because there's some stuff out that's so far out there that, you got to share. But it seems like, it doesn't end. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where it's produced, but to get, good, reliable information. In my case, it's about agriculture, but I guess it falls over into the political side too. It looks like there's more than enough misinformation or misguided narratives out there to keep everyone busy.
Well, I have a call in regarding whether Chief Justice Cady was involved in lobbying to the Iowa Standard. That's where I found it. And to Randy Evans, who's a well-known Iowa newspaper man.
Sure.
And he's a conservative guy, but that doesn't mean he's a dishonest guy. But I've been asking for source material. I can't get it.
That seems a little odd. I know in our instance as a delegate and with Farm Bureau, I've never I've never seen a judge thing or question, as far as supporting or anything like that. I've never seen that in our organizations.
Steve Peters is our guest. This is AM 1400 KVFT.
The biggest sale of the season is going on now at Jim's Carpet One's Red Tag Flooring Sale. Hi, this is Dean Sternberg. The Red Tags are your tickets to savings up to 50% off the best brands of flooring, featuring Relaxis Lee's carpets. The only carpets with a 25-year no exclusions warranty against spills and stains, even pet accidents. Save now on waterproof luxury vinyl, classic tile, natural hardwoods, cabinets, window coverings, and more. The Red Tag Flooring Sale, only at Jim's Carpet One, Floor and Home, across from Decker Truck Line, Fort Dodge.
Funeral directors are there to provide confidence, calming presence, and comforting words to help families grieve the loss of a loved one. The staff at Loffersweiler's Funeral Home raises the bar even higher. They can take care of the smallest details. They're the calm voice of reason and sometimes a very much needed shoulder to cry on. The staff at Loffersweiler's is here when you need them. They're ready to help you organize a beautiful, respectful service. Loffersweiler Funeral Home, Fort Dodge, serving families like yours since 1856.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
President calling on Congress to act. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. He's urging passage of humanitarian aid after reports of deplorable conditions for migrant children at a detention center in Texas.
Hopefully they'll be passing the bill. It's a humane bill, and that's what we want. It's all about humanity. It's about helping children.
Also telling reporters in the Oval Office that conditions are better than during the Obama administration and suggesting The system is just overwhelmed by the increasing numbers of migrants. But each side in Congress accuses
showing support for a $4.5 billion humanitarian relief bill in the House that would fund facilities used to detain adult and children migrants at the southern border.
This money cannot be transferred, so it cannot be used for mass deportations. It cannot be used for an ICE deportation force.
Texas Democrat Veronica Escobar says there are concerns from colleagues about trusting the administration. The White House is threatening a veto of the House bill, but a Senate version also providing $4.5 billion has bipartisan support and has not yet triggered a veto threat. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. Well, moments ago at the White House.
Today it's my privilege to award the highest military honor to an American soldier who demonstrated exceptional courage to protect his men and defend our nation.
The president awarding the Medal of Honor to former Army Staff Sergeant David Bellavia, the first living Iraq War veteran to receive it. He's credited with saving an entire squad during the Second Battle of Fallujah in 2004. A sell-off on Wall Street, the Dow drops 179 points at the closing bell. This is Fox News.
Summer is here, and Matt's got the barbecue out all ready to grill. That's why he trusts Super Polygrip, so he can enjoy his steak with full confidence.
Polygrip.
Sounds like there's a party going on, but something's missing. The birthday gal's arrived, and thanks to Polydent, her bright smile is anything but a surprise.
Polydent.
Ah, the bull elk's bugle, one of nature's most wondrous sounds. That is not a bull elk, that's Kim. Her RV sewage tank is spewing all over her camper. Way, way out in the middle of elk country. Yep, there's an elk. And that's Kim. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
A 23-year-old nursing student remains missing in Utah 8 days after Mackenzie Lewick was last seen.
Police say she flew back to Salt Lake City after attending her grandmother's funeral in Los Angeles on Monday, June 17th, landing at 1:30 in the morning. She texted her parents to let them know she arrived, and then she ordered a rideshare, a Lyft, but she didn't go to her apartment. Instead, the Lyft took her to Hatch Park in the suburb of North Salt Lake, and they arrived there at about 3 in the morning, some 90 minutes after her plane landed. And that is where she met someone in another car. The Lyft driver told detectives that Mackenzie didn't seem to be concerned when she got into that waiting car. And so he left, and he has been cleared as a suspect.
Fox's Claudia Cowan in Salt Lake City. Investigators are looking into reports Lewick was using a dating website the day before she disappeared. A new California law takes aim at gun violence with background checks for ammunition.
A majority of Californians voted in Proposition 63 3 years ago. State Attorney General Javier Becerra says before that vote, nearly anyone could get their hands on ammunition. But with this law set to take effect July 1st,
that will allow our team to prevent the sale of ammunition to those who have no business having it.
Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom says this background check law doesn't deny people the right to buy rounds for firearms.
It basically codifies what we're already doing for guns and makes it a similar process for ammunition.
Newsom says it should be a source of pride for California to be the first to enact such a law. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Parts of the Mississippi River have now been above flood stage for more than 200 days. One advocacy group for river communities now estimating the cost of repair and cleanup at more than $2 billion. And that's just for the Mississippi River corridor. A snowy winter and wet spring also flooding other river areas from the Midwest to the Southern Plains. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With a look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge City Council at their meeting last night entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Insurance Division regarding the Fort Dodge Memorial Park Cemetery. The Iowa Insurance Division is in the process of pursuing receivership of the property. Alan Dorothy last month informed city officials that he was out of business and was no longer taking care of the cemetery, with the city receiving multiple complaints in the last few weeks of May about overgrown grass. Under the terms of the memorandum, the city will maintain the cemetery's maps and records, maintain the cemetery buildings and grounds, as well as mow the site. The state will reimburse the city $35,000. The city recently hired Jeff's Lawn and Snow Care of Rolfe to mow the cemetery at a cost of $11,000. Once the Iowa Insurance Division gains control of the site through the receivership process, it'll seek a new owner. If a new owner cannot be found, the cemetery will become city property. Well, the latest crop report shows the corn's planted and all across the state, and soybeans are not that far behind. Art Danielson with more.
Just 2% of the corn planting remained going into last week, and farmers are now looking for some good warm growing days. 96% of the corn has emerged. That's 2 weeks behind where we were last year at this time and 15 days behind the 5-year average. The report shows still about 5% of the soybeans remain to be planted. 81% of the beans that have been planted have emerged. That's also 2 weeks behind last year. The corn condition is reported at 62% good to excellent, while beans are at 63%. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A farmer from West Central Iowa's Greene County is taking the helm of the Iowa Soybean Association this fall, but it comes with trepidation. Incoming President Tim Bardole of RIPI says these are very challenging times for soybean farmers.
It's going to be a tough year. The association is funded from the soybean checkoff, a lot of it. And with the low prices, tough planting season, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of budget issues.
Many commodities have seen poor prices for several straight years, and they're slow to recover, while Bardole says recent tariffs and trade troubles have made the matters worse.
We need worldwide free trade. The U.S. farmer, even in tough times, we're very, very good at producing soybeans and all the other agricultural products. U.S. definitely feeds the world.
Bardole took a trip to China earlier this year and saw up close how that country's enormous numbers depend heavily on American growers.
I've been to Malaysia and the Philippines. The world very much depends on U.S. agriculture for the good of their population.
Bardole will take office in September. He comes from a farming family, and his father was the president of the ISA in the late 1980s. The Ankeny-based Iowa Soybean Association has 11,000 members. 2 Central Iowa judges are being asked this week to overturn 2 recently passed state laws. The League of United Latin American Citizens and Iowa State University student Taylor Blair are asking a Polk County District Judge to strike down 3 parts of a law Republicans passed in 2017, including the requirement that voters show an ID at the polls. Attorney Bruce Spiva says these provisions put burdens on the right to vote that outweigh any potential benefits.
The unjustified hurdles that HF 516 place in front of the ballot box will disproportionately trip those voters who are young, voters who are elderly, poor, lacking in educational attainment, minorities, women, and Democrats.
A lawyer for the state says these regulations are tailored to protect the integrity of Iowa's elections and instill public confidence in the process. Matt Gannon is Assistant Attorney General for the state of Iowa.
They apply to all voters in a uniform and non-discriminatory manner and are properly tailored to advance legitimate state interests.
Now, the trial is expected to last 2 weeks. Another judge at another Polk County District courtroom heard arguments about a law passed on the last day of the 2019 legislative session. The law gives the governor authority to name another member to the 17-member commission that nominates candidates for openings on the Iowa Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. A group of Democratic lawmakers argues Republicans are trying to stack the deck for Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Assistant Attorney General argued in court Monday that the state constitution gives Republican lawmakers authority to change the makeup for the commission. And as one of his colleagues proposes wiping out all college debt for 45 million Americans, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley asked, where will it end? Wipe out all the home mortgages? Grassley, a Republican, says the legislation offered by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who's running for president, is at first glance impractical and upon closer inspection, contrary to what Democrat Sanders is fighting for.
I would be surprised about a very liberal person like Sanders that's always complaining about the 1% wealthy, the billionaires. This would benefit the rich and middle class the most, and not necessarily helping those that he's always trying to help.
Sanders' bill, called the College for All Act, would wipe out $1.6 billion in debt. The rationale is without that debt, college graduates could spend their earnings on other things like houses that would stimulate the economy. That's a look at local news for the newsroom. I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Mainly clear this afternoon with a high of 83. Westerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies and quiet again. Tonight, lows level off around 59. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow, 85. Mid 80s Thursday with a chance for scattered thunderstorms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm a mom of 2, and I live with HIV. When I first received my diagnosis, I was really worried about how I was going to provide for my kids because I knew taking control of my diagnosis was going to be expensive. So I started looking for any resources that could help us out, and I found out I was eligible for Ryan White services through the Iowa Department of Public Health. I qualified for medication and medical care, financial help, transportation, housing, and even counseling. I'm amazed by how much support is available, and I wish I had talked to someone sooner. Especially now that I know I'm not alone. Over 3,000 Iowans are living with HIV. How we take care of ourselves and how we manage our care are 2 of the most important ways we can live our best lives. I'm living with HIV, not dying from it. Why wait? Reach out for testing and care services at stophiviowa.org.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. This portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau.
We stand for people, progress and pride.
We're the Iowa Farm Bureau, and we're making healthcare affordable for you. We provide our members with access to quality healthcare coverage, savings on prescription drugs, preventive care, and more. For more information, contact your local county farm bureau.
People, progress and pride, it's true. Iowa Farm Bureau, helping you.
It's Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right. We got 60 rounds of freedom at all times here at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. And we're going to use them again today. This portion of the program, again, brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. And with me is the past president of the Webster County Farm Bureau, Steve Peterson from beautiful downtown Slifer. So once again, how you doing, Steve?
Good, Mike.
And the good news is the weather.
It's still sunny.
You know, I saw a Webster County Farm Bureau post about Sonny Perdue, who's Secretary of Agriculture, of course.
Okay.
And he seems to be saying what, farmers are the victims here, but gosh, I guess that's too bad for them. That's the Secretary of Agriculture. And he was talking about the trade situation,
He is, and the trade deal. I think.
Do we need a Secretary of Agriculture that talks that way? For God's sake?
I think his
does he represent?
I think his point of view is maybe a little misconstrued. Is most farmers, I think, have the opinion that yes, something needed to be done.
Sure.
It's kind of, I think, widely accepted that we've been kind of kicking the can down the road for multiple administrations, and there's not really one administration or person to blame, but we've been talking about this, just you and I, for the last year. So
sure.
Let's get something done.
Let's get something done.
And
right.
I think that is probably the attitude of most of the people I talk to.
Sure.
It looks like in the last week, President or Trudeau of Canada, he was in Washington here the end of last week. Looks like he had him and President Trump look pretty chummy for as tenacious as some of their visits have been. And even Nancy Pelosi got in on that, and she seemed pretty chummy. I think they had a sports bet on some games. So it looks right now for the USMCA, which is probably the closest deal that we have to get done, is it's basically in Nancy Pelosi's hands to put it in front of the House and let's get a vote done. I believe that possibly can be done before the next recess, which I think is next week. It looks like it could happen. So, I mean, let's get something done. This week, President Trump will be in Osaka, Japan for the G20.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's there Friday, Saturday, and it appears like it's going forward that he is going to meet with President Xi of China. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of optimism that those two can kind of, get the ship back on path. It kind of had a falling out after the last meeting. so that's, I mean, there's a lot of hope on that. You know, and as far as commodity prices and whatnot, we have a big report that comes out this Friday, and that's where they start kind of putting the acreage that actually got planted and the supply demand stuff. But boy, over the weekend, if we could have a favorable meeting with President Trump and President Xi, yeah, we could be off to the races come Monday morning when the market's open.
Sure.
It would be if things would line up. So that's encouraging. The next G20 isn't till the end of November, and that's in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So
really
that, it seems like that's when they've had, I think one meeting out of the G20, but the G20 seem to be when they're together. And I think President Trump's meeting with 8 other world leaders too during that time. But President Xi is what here in the heartland we're watching to see if we can get an indication on a trade deal. But the USMCA is definitely in the wheelhouse of the United States to get done. And it's silly that we don't have it done.
What is the problem there?
I don't know.
Well, I know, I've read on it, and Nancy Pelosi wants to do something to ensure that workers in Mexico are treated well. God, she's never worried about workers in this country, Well, I don't get that.
I think she wants some concessions or at least to have the dialogue to talk about a few things. But the way these trade deals are done is our trade delegations, they are set up that you do not have the congressional bodies of these countries able to come in and because then you could never negotiate everything because you'd have too many people involved. So these are basically an up-down vote in each chamber of the Congress, and then the president, of course, would sign it. So it really doesn't have the mechanisms in it to change it. I believe Mexico has ratified it on their end, so I think that's done. I believe Canada is really close, and of course, the United States is. I think if she would just put it on the floor here in the next week, it sounds like they have the votes to pass it. So,
well, again, Nancy Pelosi is guilty of a lot of really terrible things that they are never reported, and by that, and this is one of them. I mean, she's just holding this up because she doesn't want to give President Trump, some kind of favorable impression.
I guess it looked encouraging to me to see it looked like President Trudeau and Pelosi seemed to have a pretty cordial meeting when he was in Washington last week. So we can only hope that goes well. But and then kind of another newsworthy thing was here about a week and a half ago, President Trump was down in the Council Bluffs area for the announcement of the E15 year.
Yeah, that's big news.
That was a big deal, but there was some reporting that came out of the Wall Street Journal that it was the vice president of the Iowa Corn Growers, and he's also a Farm Bureau member, Kevin Ross. He spoke on stage with President Trump, and he kind of basically called out the president for not doing enough on the RIN waivers, the renewable identification numbers.
Had every right to do that.
And the reports kind of said that I don't know if I believe it, but they said Trump was surprised to hear that the approval of year-round E15 wasn't really satisfying to farmers. But and since then, I know our senators, Senator Joni Ernst and Chuck Grassley, along with a lot of other Midwest senators, they've been introducing legislation to kind of basically, I think they don't want to gut the waiver system, but they want more checks and balances, and they want them to be, I think, submitted by June. And, so it's more in a procedural manner instead of, I guess right now it's been described as they hand them out like candy in a parade. So a little bit more direction and a little more clarity. And since then, the president has now asked the EPA, Department of Agriculture, to revise the plan for the renewable waivers. So if anything good came out of there, evidently
to revise the plan. How so?
Well, that language hasn't been talked about, but at least it is being talked about now because it sounds like it was evidently falling on deaf ears before. So maybe we can, because right now the way it stands, we can go to E15, but if the EPA keeps handing out these waivers, they're giving away more than we're making. So,
well, I was talking with Mark Recker yesterday of the Corn Growers Association. That's exactly what he said.
Yeah,
he said we're going the other way because of these waivers.
Right.
Whatever gains we get,
these waivers are detrimental to the the industry as a whole, and the biodiesel side, they're kind of getting left out of this conversation too, because they and they're not plant-based really. I mean, they're using a lot of oils and animal fats and waste oil and cooking grease and different substances for the biodiesel, and so they're trying to get some traction too, because they've kind of gotten left out of the conversation. Ethanol takes front center stage on the RFS, or the Renewable Fuel Standard, but these waivers. So it appears that out of the rally last week, that we might have made a little bit of a dent or a little bit of headway in at least acknowledging that. So that's encouraging, but and then farmers were kind of patiently waiting to see, we get all this information of how big this crop's going to be or how little this crop's going to be. There's a lot of speculation right now. It looks like, they give us a planning report every Monday at 3 o'clock. It looks like what the trend has been doing is they've started peeling off the good to excellent rated crops and putting them down in the very, very poor and fair condition crops. Just a little bit. This is only the second week, but to see this much movement this quick, it's definitely kind of alarming, and it's definitely changing the basis levels throughout the country. And we've talked the basis levels, the difference between the price that we're paid and the price that's at the Chicago Board of Trade. Out in Indiana and Ohio, we're hearing reports of anywhere from 50 to 70 cents over the board price. And around here, like locally, I deal with Poet, they were at 4 cents below right now. So that's tightened up quite a bit. Normally, we'd be in that 20 to 30 cent under. So it's been encouraging, and the purpose of the basis really is to move corn where it's not to where it's needed. So it's some incentive. I've never heard much of it, but we could possibly maybe transport corn here from this area over to the Indiana, Illinois, Ohio area.
I don't know why not. And how would that benefit us here?
Well, it's a market.
So they're buying in Indiana.
Sure.
Okay.
When we start getting basis differences of that much just here in the country, it's something that's usually not done because they have adequate supplies there. So, but this definitely, could be something different. Normally, a lot of
I guess my question, Steve, is how does that benefit us? I mean, their misfortune, and I don't don't wish misfortune on them, but that's what happened. Their misfortune would turn out to be a positive for us.
It could be. There's even talk of South American corn making it up into Indiana and Ohio Valley.
But couldn't we just? I guess to finish the question, wouldn't we just be as well off to stay here in Iowa and sell our corn?
Well, whether we sell it to Mexico or we have to have a buyer. Okay. And if we can make the same money and do it domestically, that's an option. I don't know if that'll happen. Okay. There is last year after the hurricane down in the Carolinas, there was I believe South American corn that came into those ports for those poultry needs and feed needs in that region.
Sure.
So the ethanol plants, the feed mills, and all that, they need corn. They're obviously looks like they're going to be short in that region of the country. So then the basis changes, which, like, again, the role of the basis is to move corn from where it's not to where it needs to be. And it's an interesting dynamic that I don't think we've ever really seen.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of this before.
So, it's possible that, and we definitely have the rail lines, and I would assume it could be done. So
we definitely have the rail line. Definitely. Let's go to the phones. AM 1400 KVFT. Good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, just kind of listening in there a little bit. You was talking about movement and transportation. Of course, that'd be me, trucking,
Sure.
I also hear that, did I also hear correctly that the Mississippi is now down far enough that the barges are moving again?
I heard that yesterday, and then I seen another report. There was a deluge of rain, and they closed them again. So I think it's close. I think it's really close, but normally in Iowa, we would send a lot of grain down the Mississippi, or we send it on rail to Mexico. There's some pretty kind of transportation modes that seem to be pretty normal out of the Midwest. But we're fortunate enough with the rail infrastructure we have here in Iowa. I think we could send corn almost anywhere. It's not a market.
Then they'd have to take it off the rail back to the ethanol plant, because I don't know of any ethanol plant that gets corn in on a train. Well, I take it back. Albert City does. But
I believe
not very many get corn in on a train.
I know, like at Gowrie, they can. It's not a very efficient. That's not the way they're set up, but they can. That was talked about, a few years back when we had the drought. They're definitely not set up for that, but it could be a slow process, and they could. So.
Yeah, I wish that we could get more states in the Midwest to come up to the weight schedule that we're running in Iowa here with grain, where everybody can run 96. That's been a big help for a lot of my customers, where we ran into the ability we couldn't haul enough before. Now I can haul 5 truckloads in 4 trips.
Right, and they just changed that law this year for the farmers to be able to go up on a farm plate to that weight also. So it brings in adding the additional axles, and all the road engineers that I know we talk to, they would just soon have the extra axles on there. So there's
less pounds per square inch on the tire,
right,
on a 7-axle rig than there is on a 5-axle rig, even with the extra weight.
Right.
So you can go up to 96,000 now?
Yeah, on 7 axles, and then having the center of the steer to the center of the very last axle has to be 62 feet or greater.
Yeah, there's all kinds of rules, but yeah.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
But we went up to.
That's just here. I can have that same rig in Minnesota and the Dakotas. I can pretty much run 99 with. And that's what I'm permitted for 99 all the way clear to the West Coast.
Sure.
Wow.
So we can move some of these specialty bean meals around, or some of that stuff once in a while. And now they've opened up Kansas and Oklahoma for grains up to 90,000, and that's helped a little there.
Right.
Most I ever hauled was 89. I was hauling hogs, and I'm never doing that again as long as I live.
Oh, come on.
Not going to do it, man.
Fun. You just know you missed it.
Well, then you got to get in there and get the ornery suckers off, and that's just no way to go.
Yeah. I'm hoping that somewhere along the way, too, that since the grain prices are up a little bit, hopefully transportation prices will come up a little bit. Insurance is really becoming a killer for us. It's getting really, really tough to keep things afloat sometimes with the rates that are out there.
Yep, that's always a challenge.
Yeah, so
hey.
Cool. Interesting to listen to you guys talk every time. I enjoy all the farm stuff. It's really great to hear you.
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, AM 1400 KVFD, the voice 400. It's always good to have a different perspective when we're talking farm business.
Yeah,
he calls regularly because he hauls a lot of DDGs. I think out to Cargill.
Yeah, that change in weight rule that was actually done by Mr. Sexton and Mr. Crimebrink. That was
by golly, that wasn't it?
Yeah, that was something that they put forward and got through. Which it kind of the way the old rules were. It under a farm plate you couldn't. And when I say a farm plate. If you buy a commercial plate, you have a lot less restrictions. On buying a farm plate, I'm restricted to so many miles away from my farm, and I'm not a commercial hauler,
right?
Basically.
No,
but I'm not also paying the fees and regulations. But I'm also not out there. But I still buy the road, the dyed or the clear diesel that has the road tax and all that stuff on there.
You still have the green diesel? They put some dye and.
Red diesel is what we use in the farm equipment.
Okay, red diesel.
Red diesel. And then the diesel that's over the road is clear. So if you mix the two, if you get caught with dyed diesel, it's a
big fine. It was when I was trucking.
It's more than a fireworks fine here.
Yes,
I want to say it's $10,000 or something. It's you don't do it.
Used to be having one of those fuzzbusters was a pretty good fine too. That would tell you where the radar was.
I only go 4 miles to Poet, so I'm just lucky. Right. I'm lucky to get up to speed.
We're talking. Yeah, we're off track here. I guess we're off track. I know what you're talking about. You do have a semi out the farm.
Yeah.
So you say you farmers all got semis when you had some good years and screwed up winter work for us. we used to be able to make a little money in the winter hauling grain. the elevator for farmers, but you guys,
Yeah, but the advent of adding the axles, most of the road engineers have all agreed that is easier on our roads to spread out the weight and whatnot. So it's been a good deal. And some people I've talked to said in a day's time, having a fleet of those trucks can eliminate one entire truck. Because they're hauling just that much extra, and you start taking that time 6-7 trips,
right?
And it's definitely a savings.
Yeah,
so it's a good thing.
All right. So give me your prediction now. I mean, are you more? I know you're more optimistic because we have a little sunshine in the schedule.
Yep. Optimistic for what?
Well, I drove down to Iowa City, drove all over the eastern part of the state, and there's some fields never got planted this year. By the way.
Yes, there is.
But the crops are out there are really good. I mean, I did the picture on my Facebook page of my crops a year ago to now. I happen to have one I found that was a year ago, and I had my pickup next to it. And at a year ago, right now, the corn was taller than the roof of my pickup. Now a year ago,
yep. And right now it's not up to the hood, so it's probably, I'm going to say 3 to 4 feet shorter. It's definitely behind, and that's planted the same date, basically year to year. It's a difference. Like I said, it's I've done different models of heat units, and mine's at current rate. It's probably going to be the end of September, early October before we get to maturity. So
sure, but that's not unusual.
It's not, but it's a little further back than normal.
Oh, you guys are always worried. You'll be fine this year.
That's our nature to worry about.
Like that, so. I guess it is. To worry about it.
Hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
Well, that's all you can do in life, isn't it?
Yep, that's all we can do.
Just do your best and get in there and keep slugging.
But this weather is much appreciated, I think, for the crops that's out there.
Sure.
So we just got to, a little rain here and there doesn't hurt anything, but we need to dry out and get some GDUs going.
There you go, man.
So
this portion of the program brought to you by the Webster County Farm Bureau. Our guest has been Webster County Farm Bureau past President Steve Pearson. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
That's right. We'll do a little Ozzy Osbourne here just for a change. 3:33. The news is next.
Today, business happens here, and virtually anywhere. Because today, innovative companies are reinventing the way business happens, and they need people who can keep up. With the expertise and technology to get packages to over 150 million delivery points. So, who can help you deliver the future of commerce? The United States Postal Service. See why we deliver more e-commerce packages to homes than anyone at USPS.com/future.
The biggest sale of the season is going on now at Jim's Carpet One's Red Tag Flooring Sale. Hi, this is Dean Sternberg. The Red Tags are your tickets to savings up to 50% off the best brands of flooring, featuring Relaxis Lee's carpets. The only carpets with a 25-year no exclusions warranty against spills and stains, even pet accidents. Save now on waterproof luxury vinyl, classic tile, natural hardwoods, cabinets, window coverings, and more. The Red Tag Flooring Sale, only at Jim's Carpet One Floor and Home, across from Decker Truck Line, Fort Dodge.
Attention to this important announcement. If you have ever taken prescriptions like Adderall and are concerned about the side effects and high cost, now there's a new all-natural smart pill available that's the closest thing to a safe, real-life, limitless pill. It's so powerful and effective that students, athletes, and execs all want to get their hands on it. It's called Limitless, a Coastline product, and it's truly remarkable. It can help skyrocket your concentration, improve your creative thinking, enhance your memory, and make you feel like a better version of yourself. Call and find out how to get a free bottle of Limitless and experience this firsthand. It's not a question of whether this powerful pill works, but how great it can make you feel. Take it and watch it go to work. Limitless may be the best kept secret available today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041. 800-681-9041.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge, 33682 degrees.
Blockchain has been slow to take off. Hello, I'm Ken Anderson with Managing for Profit on Brownfield. Blockchain was a big buzzword in agricultural discussions in 2018, but that buzz has softened considerably in recent months. A few ag and food-related companies have announced blockchain projects, but for the most part, it hasn't taken off as some had expected. We'll discuss it with Tanner Emke, manager of the Knowledge Exchange Division at CoBank, right after this.
Here's that song again. Here's that song again. For the 100th time today. Here's that song again. It's gonna be stuck in your head all day. Here's that song again. It will make you cray cray.
You love your kids enough to watch that TV show a bajillion times. Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat for their age and size. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Tanner Emke with CoBank talks about what blockchain does.
Well, blockchain is a distributed ledger technology, which basically means information that would normally be kept on one set of books is instead shared on multiple computers, thereby allowing multiple people in a supply chain to have the same visibility of all the same documents. And that can be beneficial through reducing the chance of errors and mistakes and fraud, to potentially creating value throughout the supply chain. And in agriculture, the value that could be extended all the way down to farmers and ranchers and all the way up to consumers.
Emke says blockchain is being used by Walmart to track leafy greens and by Cargill internally, but hasn't been picked up industry-wide in the commodity sector.
I think that's the challenge when you're looking at commodity trading, is because commodities are commingled from multiple locations and sent through a very vast network of handlers and shippers. And that has complicated the adoption of blockchain. Now, that doesn't mean it won't happen, but there's a lot of hurdles that have to be overcome for it to really materialize.
And Emke tells Brownfield most farmers don't see a need for it.
Really think about it. If you're a farmer and the current system of marketing your grain works for you, why do you need to use blockchain? Most people just don't need it. Think about how a farmer sells grain. Do you need to commit something to the blockchain? No, you just call up your co-op and sell some grain on the phone. I mean, that's a very efficient, trustworthy system. Now, for some farmers who want to connect with sellers and they are able to segment out their commodities, this may at some point down the future be of value to them. The bigger gain longer term, and we're talking many years in the future, is that blockchain might be an opportunity for buyers to have visibility of value all the way down to the farm level. Now, that's going to require some evolution of the supply chain. That's going to require segmentation where buyers can see value that has been documented and that information committed to the blockchain, where they could see things like oil content or protein content and potentially pay more for that so the farmer can receive greater value. But that takes a lot of evolution in the supply chain for something like that to happen.
That's Tanner Emke with CoBank. And that's Managing for Profit on Brownfield, Ag News for America.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With a look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge City Council at their meeting last night entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Insurance Division regarding the Fort Dodge Memorial Park Cemetery. The Iowa Insurance Division is in the process of pursuing receivership of the property. Alan Dorothy last month informed city officials that he was out of business and was no longer taking care of the cemetery, with the city receiving multiple complaints in the last few weeks of May about overgrown grass. Under the terms of the memorandum, the city will maintain the cemetery's maps and records, maintain the cemetery buildings and grounds, as well as mow the site. The state will reimburse the city $35,000. The city recently hired Jeff Schlon and Still Care of Rolfe to mow the cemetery at a cost of $11,000. Once the Iowa Insurance Division gains control of the site through the receivership process, it'll seek a new owner. If a new owner cannot be found, the cemetery will become city property. Well, the latest crop report shows the corn's planted all across the state, and soybeans are not that far behind. Art Danielson with more.
Just 2% of the corn planting remained going into last week, and farmers are now looking for some good warm growing days. 96% of the corn has emerged. That's 2 weeks behind where we were last year at this time and 15 days behind the 5-year average. The report shows still about 5% of the soybeans remain to be planted. 81% of the beans that have been planted have emerged. That's also 2 weeks behind last year. The corn condition is reported at 62% good to excellent, while beans are at 63%. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A farmer from West Central Iowa's Greene County is taking the helm of the Iowa Soybean Association this fall, but it comes with trepidation. Incoming President Tim Bardole of RIPI says these are very challenging times for soybean farmers.
It's going to be a tough year. The association is funded from the soybean checkoff, a lot of it. And with the low prices, tough planting season, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of budget issues.
Many commodities have seen poor prices for several straight years, so they're slow to recover, while Bardole says recent tariffs and trade troubles have made the matters worse.
We need worldwide free trade. The U.S. farmer, even in tough times, we're very, very good at producing soybeans and all the other agricultural products. U.S. definitely feeds the world.
Bardole took a trip to China earlier this year and saw up close how that country's enormous numbers depend heavily on American growers.
I've been to Malaysia and the Philippines. The world very much depends on U.S. agriculture for the good of their population.
Bardole will take office in September. He comes from a farming family, and his father was the president of the ISA in the late 1980s. The Ankeny-based Iowa Soybean Association has 11,000 members. 2 Central Iowa judges are being asked this week to overturn 2 recently passed state laws. The League of United Latin American Citizens and Iowa State University student Taylor Blair are asking a Polk County District judge to strike down 3 parts of the law Republicans passed in 2017, including the requirement that voters show an ID at the polls. Attorney Bruce Spiva says these provisions put burdens on the right to vote that outweigh any potential benefits.
The unjustified hurdles that HF 516 place in front of the ballot box will disproportionately trip those voters who are young, voters who are elderly, poor, lacking in educational attainment, minorities, women, and Democrats.
A lawyer for the state says these regulations are tailored to protect the integrity of Iowa's elections and instill public confidence in the process. Matt Gannon is Assistant Attorney General for the state of Iowa.
They apply to all voters in a uniform and non-discriminatory manner and are properly tailored to advance legitimate state interests.
Now, the trial is expected to last 2 weeks. Another judge at another Polk County District courtroom heard arguments about a law passed on the last day of the 2019 legislative session. The law gives the governor authority to name another member to the 17-member commission that nominates candidates for openings on the Iowa Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. A group of Democratic lawmakers argues Republicans are trying to stack the deck for Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Assistant Attorney General argued in court Monday that the state constitution gives Republican lawmakers authority to change the makeup for the commission. And as one of his colleagues proposes wiping out all college debt for 45 million Americans, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley asked, where will it end? Wipe out all the home mortgages? Grassley, a Republican, says the legislation offered by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who's running for president, is at first glance impractical and upon closer inspection, contrary to what Democrat Sanders is fighting for.
I would be surprised about a very liberal person like Sanders that's always complaining about the 1% wealthy, the billionaires. This would benefit the rich and middle class the most, and not necessarily helping those that he's always trying to help.
Sanders' bill, called the College for All Act, would wipe out $1.6 billion in debt. The rationale is without that debt, college graduates could spend their earnings on other things like houses that would stimulate the economy. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Mainly clear this afternoon with a high of 83. Westerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies and quiet again tonight. Lows level off around 59. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow 85. Mid-80s Thursday with a chance for scattered thunderstorms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 81.
Here's a look at how the markets closed today. July corn up 3/4 at 447.5. September up 1 1/4 cents at 453. December up 1/4 cent at 457.5. March down a penny at 462, and May corn down 2 1/4 at 463. July soybeans down 5 1/2 at 903.5. August down 6 cents at 908 3/4. September down 6 at 914.5. November down 6 1/4 at 926.5, and January down 7 1/4 at 938.25. Soybean meal down 190 a ton at 315.70. June live cattle up 82 at 107.75. August up 82 cents at 103 1/4. August feeder cattle down 45 at 131.32. September down 47 at 131.87. July lean hogs up 155 at 74.40, and August up 195 at 76.17. I am Dwayne Murley.
Physical reactions to certain foods can be common, but most are caused by food intolerance, not a food allergy. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield. The symptoms of food allergy and food intolerance can be similar, but there are major differences between the two. Food allergies cause an immune system reaction that affects multiple organs in the body, and in some cases, an allergic reaction can be severe or life-threatening. Symptoms include hives, swelling, itching, and dizziness. Food intolerance symptoms are less serious and are usually limited to digestive problems. They include gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, cramping, and nausea. People can typically still eat certain foods without serious consequences. For example, someone with a lactose intolerance can drink lactose-free milk or take a lactase enzyme pill before consuming lactose to help with digestion. Food intolerance can be caused by several things: the absence of an enzyme needed to digest a food, irritable bowel syndrome, sensitivity to food additives, and celiac disease. There are 8 foods that account for 90% of allergic food reactions: milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, peanuts, tree nuts, wheat, and soybeans. An allergist will be able to determine if you're experiencing a food allergy. Take certain precautions if you have a food allergy and carry medication for potential reactions. For food intolerances, simply avoiding those foods can be the answer. I'm Julie Harker with Healthy Living on Brownfield.
Let's be honest. The National Symphony may not be in his future, but he wanted to try violin. So you said yes because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more about keeping your kids safe in your vehicle at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Show him you love him. Keep him safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Man, I love my kids so much. I once sat for 3 hours in the cold rain to watch her soccer team lose by 18 goals.
I love my kids so much, I once used a tube to suck snot out of her stuffed nose at 3 a.m.
You win.
Love your kids? Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat. From toddlers to tweens, visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to find the right seat for their age and size. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Have you ever wondered how the brain works? What makes us tick? Join me, Greg Woods, every Wednesday morning for all the latest news on the brain, on aging, and the science behind it all. It's The Mind Boggles, every Wednesday morning at 8:30 on AM 1400 KVFD.
Hi, I'm Jamie Brundage, owner of Historic Bruce Funeral Home. When you're planning the memorialization of your loved one, you're telling their story and sharing special memories with your family and friends. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, we're proud to help you celebrate the life of your loved one, and we're here to guide you with your selections as we help you and your family say goodbye in a way that's right for you. Our staff is committed to compassionate care and attention to detail. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
Frontier Days 2019 was a huge success, and the Fort Museum and Frontier Village would like to thank the following sponsors: Alpha Media, Trophies Unlimited, Lizard Creek Blues Society, Bob Uni, Hopkins Insurance, Bob Roby Belgian Horses, James and Lori Kirsten and Family, Kingsgate Insurance Center, Webster County Crime Stoppers, Pedersen Sanitation, Arbor Pro, Elanco, Electronic Engineering, Modern Sound Engineering, and CJ Bio America. Thanks again to the sponsors of Frontier Days 2019 from the Fort Museum and Frontier Village.
Attention to this important announcement. If you have ever taken prescriptions like Adderall and are concerned about the side effects and high cost, now there's a new all-natural smart pill available that's the closest thing to a safe, real-life, limitless pill. It's so powerful and effective that students, athletes, and execs all want to get their hands on it. It's called Limitless, a Coastline product, and it's truly remarkable. It can help skyrocket your concentration, improve your creative thinking, enhance your memory, and make you feel like a better version of yourself. Call and find out how to get a free bottle of Limitless and experience this firsthand. It's not a question of whether this powerful pill works, but how great it can make you feel. Take it and watch it go to work. Limitless may be the best kept secret available today.
To find out how to get your free bottle of Limitless, call 800-681-9041. That's 800-681-9041. Free bottle for a limited time. Call now, 800-681-9041. 800-681-9041.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Real people steal people. They want real power. They expect real performance, and they demand real value. Right now, when you buy the BGA 56 blower set with battery and charger for just $199.95, you'll save $30 on the FSA 56 trimmer. Experience the advantage of real steel. Search STIHL or visit steeldealers.com. All prices MWS SRP. Offer valid through 6/30/19 at participating dealers while supplies last. See dealer for details.
If you don't listen to him, you suck.
He's sneaky, but he's right.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. That's what we got going again today. Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge. You can always join the program by calling 515-955-1400. You know, we're trying to be the voice of Fort Dodge here. And that would be your voice as well as anybody that lives in the area or is just passing through. 515-955-1400. Yeah, David Feerick, city manager, should be in here in the next hour. And I want to say congratulations to Giannis. Now, if you're a basketball fan, you know what I'm talking about. Giannis won the National Basketball Association MVP trophy on Monday night in Santa Monica, California. He is an inspirational story. Came from a poor background. He beat out some great players, Paul George of Oklahoma City and James Harden of Houston. By the way, I'm a Harden fan. I am a Harden fan, but even Harden can't win a world championship by himself. And that seems to be the way, I don't want to digress, but I guess I already am. It seems like the Houston Rockets are building their whole offense around James Harden, which hasn't really worked out that well for them. But anyway, Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you know how to pronounce this guy's last name, please call 515-955-1400. 515-955-1400. Yeah, a great young man. Boy, they barely lost. The Milwaukee Bucks barely lost to the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors to go into the NBA Finals. They were up 2-0. And by golly, if the Raptors didn't come back, the Raptors had quite a year. By the way, of course, we're going to cover the sports scene Friday with Nevin Mulholland and Randy Kuhlman, two basketball experts in this area. I got to tell you, I take my hat off to their knowledge of basketball. I was never that big of a basketball fan. It was sports, so I liked it, but I was more of a wrestling fan for winter sports and still am. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan as well, and I see Craig Kimbrell is almost ready to come back to the Cubs. Yeah, the Chicago Cubs, don't want a young man who has a 3-year, $43 million contract in Des Moines. They think he should be up here, and they're absolutely correct. Chicago, by the way, is out in front in the Central Division, barely. The Central Division, I think, is the toughest division in baseball. I think Nevin Mulholland disagrees with me sometimes, just to disagree. But any place, any division where you have St. Louis in third place, that's a tough division. The Dodgers are having a great year. They're in front in the National League West Division. Atlanta, wow, we got to talk more about Atlanta because I'll tell you, they are having a year. Yankees came around. They're leading the East. Minnesota, what a team, huh? And Houston rounds out the American League. 4 o'clock.
If you're a gearhead or not, you'll enjoy the Under the Hood Car Show every Saturday afternoon from 2 till 4 on the Voice of Fort Dodge.
A new twist in the immigration debate. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. The acting Border Protection Chief is resigning.
John Sanders had been acting as head of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection since its commissioner, Kevin McAleenan, was tapped to take over as acting Homeland Security Secretary in April. Sanders' resignation takes effect July 5th, but in an email to CBP employees, did not explain the reasons for his departure.
Fox's John Decker at the White House. This amid bipartisan calls for humanitarian aid at the southern border.
There is no soap. There is no diapers. Above all else, there is no human decency.
New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries chairs the House Democratic Caucus. President Trump urging Congress to act.
I'm very concerned. And they're much better than they were under President Obama by far. And we're trying to get the Democrats to agree to really give us some humanitarian aid, humanitarian money.
But Democrats blame Trump administration policies for conditions at the border, and some aren't satisfied with the House bill pushing provisions the White House says the president won't support. A Senate version has bipartisan support. Meantime, just days before Congress takes a 4th of July break, time's also running out on a bill to continue help for 9/11 first responders.
The Senate Majority Leader agreed to meet with 9/11 first responders after criticism from activists like comedian Jon Stewart over delays in approving a long-term compensation fund for victims and responders of the terror attack.
As I've said repeatedly, we're certainly going to address this issue.
The 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund is facing depletion with payouts shrinking. It's set to expire next year. Supporters are pushing congressional leaders to approve permanent funding before that happens.
Fox's Jared Halpern on Capitol Hill. Just out of the meeting, members of the 9/11 first responders group tearfully telling reporters moments ago they will take Majority Leader McConnell at his word, that they're angry it's not done already. This is Fox News.
Baseball season is in full swing.
Popcorn! Get your popcorn!
It's a good thing Matt secured his denture with Super Poly Grip. Now he can enjoy the snacks as much as the game.
Poly Grip! Hey, how are you? So great to see you.
It's that time of year when the family meets up.
Hi, come on. Get together, guys. Family photo.
It's a good thing Jack cleans his denture with Polydent so he can enjoy the whole day with confidence.
Polydent!
Ah, the copperhead snake. It hisses before attacking. But that's not a copperhead. That's the Sullivan's RV freshwater tank overflowing into their black one, which is backing into their vent pipe, making for a very different kind of attack. One that arrives just in time for taco night. It's wild out there. When it gets too wild, Progressive has your RV covered. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Search continues for a University of Utah nursing student last seen more than a week ago. Fox's Gernal Scott has this live.
Lisa, Mackenzie Lewick was last spotted a week ago yesterday when she left a Lyft driver's car at a Salt Lake City park and got into another car. Police are already looking at her cell phone records, but Assistant Police Chief Tim Doubt says this disappearance, according to her family, seems unusual.
We see no indication that she has gone off the grid before. This kind of behavior is uncharacteristic for her, according to them.
The Lyft driver has been cleared of suspicion. It was confirmed he picked up other passengers that morning. Police are also examining social media and bank records to trace any activity, Lisa.
Thanks, Gernal. The opportunity of the century. White House advisor Jared Kushner says that's a better way to describe the first part of the Trump administration plan for Mideast peace, an economic plan for Palestinians.
Agreeing on an economic pathway forward is a necessary precondition to resolving what is a previously unsolvable political situation.
Speaking at a conference in Bahrain to launch what Palestinian protesters deride as the deal of the century. This as the tensions with Iran continue. President Trump says he hopes Iran got the message from new sanctions on its leaders.
I'll tell you what the message is. When they're ready, they'll have to let us know. When they're ready, they'll let us know. Very simple. Ready to negotiate, you mean? Ready to do whatever. Doesn't make any difference. Whatever they want to do, I'm ready.
But President Trump also warning in a tweet earlier today that any attack by Iran on anything American would be met with overwhelming force. First Lady Melania Trump announcing that her press secretary, Stephanie Grisham, will be the president's new press secretary, replacing Sarah Sanders. On Wall Street, a sell-off today, the Dow dropped 179 points. I'm Lisa Brady. This is Fox News.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With a look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge City Council at their meeting last night entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Insurance Division regarding the Fort Dodge Memorial Park Cemetery. The Iowa Insurance Division is in the process of pursuing receivership of the property. Alan Dorothy last month informed city officials that he was out of business and was no longer taking care of the cemetery, with the city receiving multiple complaints in the last few weeks of May about overgrown grass. Under the terms of the memorandum, the city will maintain the cemetery's maps and records, maintain the cemetery buildings and grounds, as well as mow the site. The state will reimburse the city $35,000. The city recently hired Jeff Lawn and Snow Care of Rolfe to mow the cemetery at a cost of $11,000. Once the Iowa Insurance Division gains control of the site through the receivership process, it'll seek a new owner. If a new owner cannot be found, the cemetery will become city property. Well, the latest crop report shows the corn's planted all across the state, and soybeans are not that far behind. Art Danielson with more.
Just 2% of the corn planting remained going into last week, and farmers are now looking for some good warm growing days. 96% of the corn has emerged. That's 2 weeks behind where we were last year at this time and 15 days behind the 5-year average. Report shows still about 5% of the soybeans remain to be planted. 81% of the beans that have been planted have emerged. That's also 2 weeks behind last year. The corn condition is reported at 62% good to excellent, while beans are at 63%. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A farmer from West Central Iowa's Greene County is taking the helm of the Iowa Soybean Association this fall, but it comes with trepidation. Incoming President Tim Bardole of Rippey says these are very challenging times for soybean farmers.
It's going to be a tough year. The association is funded from the soybean checkoff, a lot of it. And with the low prices, tough planting season, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of budget issues.
Many commodities have seen poor prices for several straight years, and they're slow to recover, while Bardole says recent tariffs and trade troubles have made the matters worse.
We need worldwide free trade. The U.S. farmer, even in tough times, we're very, very good at producing soybeans and all the other agricultural products. U.S. definitely feeds the world.
Bardole took a trip to China earlier this year and saw up close how that country's enormous numbers depend heavily on American growers.
I've been to Malaysia and the Philippines. The world very much depends on U.S. agriculture for the good of their population.
Bardole will take office in September. He comes from a farming family and his father was the president of the ISA in the late 1980s. The Ankeny-based Iowa Soybean Association has 11,000 members. Two Central Iowa judges are being asked this week to overturn two recently passed state laws. The League of United Latin American Citizens and Iowa State University student Taylor Blair are asking a Polk County District Judge to strike down three parts of a law Republicans passed in 2017, including the requirement that voters show an ID at the polls. Attorney Bruce Spiva says these provisions put burdens on the right to vote that outweigh any potential benefits.
The unjustified hurdles that HF 516 place in front of the ballot box will disproportionately trip those voters who are young, voters who are elderly, poor, lacking in educational attainment, minorities, women, and Democrats.
A lawyer for the state says these regulations are tailored to protect the integrity of Iowa's elections and instill public confidence in the process. Matt Gannon is Assistant Attorney General for the state of Iowa.
They apply to all voters in a uniform and non-discriminatory manner and are properly tailored to advance legitimate state interests.
Now, the trial is expected to last 2 weeks. Another judge at another Polk County District courtroom heard arguments about a law passed on the last day of the 2019 legislative session. The law gives the governor authority to name another member to the 17-member commission that nominates candidates for openings on the Iowa Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. A group of Democratic lawmakers argues Republicans are trying to stack the deck for Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Assistant Attorney General argued in court Monday that the state constitution gives Republican lawmakers authority to change the makeup for the commission. And as one of his colleagues proposes wiping out all college debt for 45 million Americans, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley asked, where will it end? Wipe out all the home mortgages? Grassley, a Republican, says the legislation offered by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who's running for president, is at first glance impractical and upon closer inspection, contrary to what Democrat Sanders is fighting for.
I would be surprised about a very liberal person like Sanders that's always complaining about the 1% wealthy, the billionaires. This would benefit the rich and middle class the most, and not necessarily helping those that he's always trying to help.
Sanders' bill, called the College for All Act, would wipe out $1.6 billion in debt. The rationale is without that debt, college graduates could spend their earnings on other things like houses that would stimulate the economy. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
Here's the AM 1400 KVFD weatherology forecast. Mainly clear this afternoon with a high of 83. Westerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Mainly clear skies and quiet again. Tonight, lows level off around 59. Chance for scattered storms tomorrow, 85. Mid-80s Thursday with a chance for scattered thunderstorms. Upper 80s Friday. From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. Currently, it's 82.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Oh, why not just cremate me when I'm gone?
Sounds simple, doesn't it? However, there are many options to consider when cremation is chosen. From simple to detailed, we at Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services can help you create a unique commemoration.
Gunderson Funeral Home and Cremation Services.
Connect to this radio station from all across the country. Take us to the gym, shopping. How about a road trip? Listen to us now on the free iHeartRadio app. You'll never miss a moment with your favorite radio station. Download the free iHeartRadio app and search for this station so we can go wherever you want us to.
This is happening. I'm sitting at my standing desk, not necessarily looking at celebrity gossip, when Kevin bursts in.
The new homepage module is supposed to go live this month, Deirdre, and the dev team's backed up for weeks.
Kevin's solution is to sweat through his shirt. I hop on Upwork and hire a web dev agency with a flawless success rating, because the new module will be getting done. And thanks to Upwork, this is happening.
Oh, you got this under control.
Oh, Kevin. As a matter of fact, I do.
Upwork. Hire freelancers, make things happen.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
All right, David Ferrick's here, so I thought we better get away from that mellow music we were playing for a while, for, bridge music. Go right to Ozzy Osbourne, because David Ferrick is kind of an Ozzy guy, only without the hair and stuff. How you doing there, Dave?
Great.
All right.
How are you?
David Ferrick, of course, is the Fort Dodge City Manager. And if you have a question or comment for the city manager, it's 515-955-1400, 515-955-1400. I talked with Roger Porter, Chief Roger Porter, a little earlier today about fireworks. And he said that there would be something in the messenger, which is an imperfect answer to me, but I didn't say anything to him. So is that is the fireworks rules and regulations on the
kind of a do's and don'ts thing about fireworks? They're going to put together a press release about that.
Okay, so is that on your
we could have them
Facebook
come
page?
back. Well, we'll be. We can come back on the show, as we get close to July 1 when they're finally legal, which they are not right now. Those of you who are buying fireworks and shooting them off in Fort Dodge, they are not legal.
Yeah, got woke up last night about 1:30, and somebody was blowing them up. Who's up at 1:30 on a Monday night?
And if you are up, you should realize that the people around you don't want to be up.
That's
so
right.
Shooting fireworks is not a good idea.
Right. We got to go to work.
It's not a neighborly thing to do.
They have no respect for their elders, I'll tell you. They just have no respect. So it isn't available to other media sources. Then
we can make it
City
available.
Would you please?
Yes.
It would be nice. We could have it on our website and stuff, and I could have it on my Facebook page, and I could even talk about it.
Yeah, maybe we.
Unless you're trying to give the messenger some kind of weird exclusive, because that would be weird. I know the messenger is always telling you guys, "Don't let us get beat on a story. Don't let us get beat. Otherwise, people think we're useless." Well, yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, that would be great.
Sure, we'll make sure we get the communication over to you, and maybe we can get someone on one of your shows.
By the way,
in the week.
Thank you. By the way, I should have interrupted you, but I really thought this was a nice thing. Speaking of the newspaper, these 3 girls from Manson.
Oh, that's cool.
Who are trying to save the Crossroads Mall.
Yeah.
Which needs saving, that's for sure. Needs saving, but yeah, that was nice. They showed up at the council meeting last night.
Yeah, they did. And it was really neat because they took this on as a project. They're all middle schoolers. I think I can't remember their grade, but they're all middle schoolers from Manson that wanted to get involved in what they could do to try to help support the Crossroads Mall. They're disappointed that it's not very full right now. And they initially met with Mayor Bemrick and I back in May when they're still in school. And they wanted to talk to us, and we can explain to them how retail development works and what the city controls and what the city doesn't control, what's free market and how the city can be involved. And that was interesting. They did this petition and identified stores they want, and they came to a council meeting, which was totally on their own. They didn't have to do this. It wasn't a class assignment.
Yeah,
it was
that's
just
great.
And it was really neat when they did because they definitely had a rehearsed presentation, because they each took different lines and they kind of did it I don't know. It was neat. It was cute. It was a little bit of work. And so it was good they got there and participated, and hopefully they stay engaged as they grow older and maybe become future council members or
city managers, which is top of the heap.
No, it's not
top of the heap. Come on.
It's not
the story mentions Nevin Conrad. It's been so long since I've seen Nevin that I should go to a council meeting. Nevin's a good guy. I just never see him. But you made the front page of the paper. There you are.
I know. I like that picture. That picture makes me look 10 years younger,
It
maybe
does.
12 years younger. I wonder why.
Well, I don't know, but it looks like you have a little hair on the top of your head.
Because that picture was taken 12 years ago. I think it was.
Was it that old? Yeah. Update it there, messenger. Let's update it. But it's an important story. I mean,
no, they don't have to update the picture. We can go with the old one.
We can go with the old one. I'm sorry, man. I mean, then you will have a picture with hair or something, a picture from your high school days. I like to put on pictures when I weighed 180 pounds, but that's really been a long time ago. I got to go back into my youth pretty far anymore.
Yeah.
But David Ferrick, city manager for Dodge, is our guest. If you would like to question the city manager, it's 515-955-1400, 955-1400. So did we reach a complete agreement over Memorial Park Cemetery, or where are we here?
Okay, so yeah, I can talk a little about that. And the news story that preceded this segment was pretty accurate as far as the information provided.
Right.
To kind of update it, that the council last night approved 2 things. One is a resolution agreeing to the consent for the receivership, and that's more of a legal step. That way, the judge can just order the receivership. Now that Al Dorothy, the owner of Memorial Park, has consented to it, and the city's consented to it being a party.
Now,
to
explain that owner. Does he own the property or what?
Yeah, it's owned by Memorial Park LLC, and he's the one agent for that. So it's a LLC, not-for-profit LLC under his ownership. And so, yeah, he is I mean, I guess for lack of a better term, the owner. So he's consented to it. The city's consented to it. So that way the judge doesn't have to have a hearing, or he can just by order. So in talking to the Iowa Insurance Division last week, that with the consent forms, the receivership should be ordered this week. So it'll officially start this week. We were able to meet with Al Dorothy yesterday and get access to all the records and the stuff out at the cemetery. And what that matters to most people is that now we can better assist if there's a burial that needs to happen or interment, assist that we can confirm that, where it's supposed to take place, what lot it goes in.
Does Mr. Dorothy determine what?
No, usually it's a matter of who's bought what, and confirming that where somebody has pre-purchased a site actually matches the records at the cemetery, so we can double check where the person's supposed to be interred. Usually that's not very difficult if somebody has a deed, but sometimes people don't have the deeds.
Yeah. So if someone wanted to buy a burial plot there today, would they have to buy it from Mr. Dorothy?
No. And today probably wouldn't. We're not really in a position to sell them as of today. I mean, we just got access to the records.
I understand.
We're gonna take some time and figure out how to make sense of them so that we can get to a point where if somebody needs a burial plot, that we can be able to actually sell them. And that'll take some time. I mean, the records are manual, they're paper, they're in file cabinets. And so we'll have to look at how we can get that organized to the point where we can if people want one, we can sell one.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so will Mr. Dorothy own this ground into perpetuity? Does he have to sell the ground, or what is the story?
So here's what I understand, and I could be wrong with this. When it enters receivership, then at that point it is under the complete control of the Iowa Insurance Division.
The Iowa Insurance Division.
So
it's weird you get the Insurance Division involved in this.
Yeah, well, that's where they put the regulation of perpetual care cemeteries.
Well, that's fine. It's just just you don't associate the two necessarily.
I know. I never thought of it until I learned a little bit more about this. And so then once it's in receivership, they are under complete control. As we get to the end of receivership, they will designate a private party if somebody steps forward to want to own it. Mr. Dorothy could, I highly doubt this happened, could demonstrate he has the means to continue after receivership, and they could let him continue. In this case, I don't think that's even an option that Mr. Dorothy wants to pursue. Obviously, he voluntarily kind of stepped away from it. They could find another private party. Again, probably not very likely in this situation. In that case, then they do basically hand it over to the city. The property becomes the city, and kind of like Oakland Cemetery becomes city property,
right.
And then we're responsible for maintaining it. Unlike Oakland, where we don't sell grave sites because it's full, this one will be a little different in that there will be stuff for sale once we kind of figure out how to do that and who's going to do that and get all that done. So there'll be some time. As we, again, our first major priority is just make sure we're mowing it and maintaining it, and then steadily try to make improvements to the site. The next step in here is, now that we have access to the records, can we better help facilitate the funeral homes or family members when they need to have a burial, and then ultimately get to where we can actually start selling off lots. And then, I see, over the years, assuming we will own this, and I think that's a high probability, is work on developing that park to make it something special and make it really a really neat place to be, not only to go visit a loved one who's buried there, but also just a cool place. Kind of like
that would be nice.
Oakland Cemetery is a neat place just to walk through, even if you're not there to visit anyone's specific grave.
I just hope that we never see the situation that we had last Memorial Day. That was disgraceful. It just was terrible, and we had very few flags out there, and the weather was bad anyway.
Yeah,
it just was not good.
Well, kudos to the volunteers that stepped up and took their
wonderful boy. That's Fort
took
Dodge,
a lot of
man.
time out of their Memorial Day. I know, it gives me goosebumps even talking about how they stepped up and went out there and just mowed it because they thought it was the right thing to do.
It is the right thing to do, and yeah, my hat's off to them, boy. I'll stand up when they come in the room.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. Well, good for them.
Mhm.
So do you see a time then? Did I hear you say sometime in the future that the city will take complete control of Memorial Park?
Yeah, the receivership is 120 days. So that's usually 4 months. And then they make a decision. So, you know, if you get 4 months from now, you're into, what is that, October-ish, November-ish. So,
Right.
And, you know, at that point, you're kind of get into your slow season as far as you won't really need to mow, but there'll be things that'll need to be done, like, spraying for weeds, for, all the stuff you do in the off season. The cemetery needs some road rehabs. I mean, the gravel roads, being that it's a wet spring and summer, being out there with this issue, notice that the roads are in pretty bad shape, and we got to figure out how to start upgrading those as well. And then, again, right now, the other thing is just trying to get the records in a form that are understandable and accessible.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Jim Winter retired, huh?
I know.
I've met Jim a couple of times.
Yeah.
Hired in 1988. That sounds like
Yes.
another, like a date from history so far away we can't even remember it. But I was alive.
Yeah, the ironic thing is there's several people that work for Parks and Rec that were not born by 1988.
Oh, I
for
believe that.
sure. I mean,
what is it? 31 years?
I think
Yeah.
his replacement, Cody, probably wasn't alive in 1988.
Is Cody over 31?
Oh no, he's not.
He's not even
If
close.
if he is, he doesn't look it. But no, I think he's younger than that. So,
Well, I have
it's a changing of the guard, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is. As I say, I met him a couple times. Seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Real nice
He'll
guy.
be missed. He's gonna go fishing. So
Good for
that's
him.
Good, yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that one of these days myself. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and no, this is it. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm
The
going
literal-
fishing.
The literal mic drop, and then you're
The
done.
literal mic drop. Yeah. Tune in one day and you'll just hear a mic drop and that's it. Be dead air after that. So we had some zoning changes.
Yeah.
Did we
Yeah.
zone to get that damn camera out of the that speed trap there by the Hab Hump or not?
The speed trap by the Hab Hump. No, there's no speed traps in Fort Dodge.
Of course not.
No. Why would you say such
How
a
can
thing?
you sit there and say that to me? You
They're-
and Bemrick sit there and you know your jacket.
They're not speed traps.
No,
They're just areas where we have speeding problems.
Right. Yes, we have to crack down
yeah.
those terrible speeders.
So no, the zoning had nothing to do with cameras
I know it
and automated enforcement. It really is more of a, and I won't go into details because it says we can never be boring on this show, and there's a lot of technical details going into
All right.
into the zoning. There's a lot of cleanup. The discussion yesterday was on what constitutes a backyard versus a side yard, and where you could park a recreational vehicle and on what surface was kind of the discussion. So we had our first reading yesterday. It will need 3 more readings to pass, and this is like only phase 1 of our kind of comprehensive zoning update, and so we'll do phase 2 starting later in the fall, and hit other sections that were identified, whether it's comprehensive plan things that identified needed to be changed. It's the step. So part, good zoning, good planning practices. You do a comprehensive plan, which we did a year or so ago. Then you follow up and you redo your zoning ordinance, because your ordinance should reflect what are the desires of the community, which should have been established by the comprehensive plan. That's where your civic engagement is in the comprehensive plan. Then make sure your zoning ordinance is consistent with that. Then the next step after the zoning ordinance is our subdivision ordinance, which is a document that spells out how a subdivision is supposed to look. Is that consistent with what we heard from the community in the comprehensive planning process?
So ordinance should reflect then the what's best for the citizens of Fort Dodge and what they want. So we're going to have spring and fall cleanup, and probably cleanup in the winter and all that sort of thing. No,
It's not what's best to the person behind the microphone. It's best to.
now it's all about me. But you
made
will
it,
have
you made
to-
it all about you.
Yeah, well, I really, I do often. I don't deny it for a minute, but you'll have to admit that's a pretty popular program, spring and fall cleanup.
The spring, well, yeah. I mean, people utilize the spring cleanup a lot.
Yes,
that's for
they
sure.
do, doesn't it? Yeah. What a mess it was in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
man. Jeez.
And we're going to try to keep moving that thing forward, that we're getting people to utilize it in the proper manner. And
how would that be?
Well, just not make a mess with things. Make it more of a. I mean, we want it to be really what people need is bulk item
Yeah,
pickup.
right.
You know, what we end up with is not only bulk item pickup, but a lot of things onto curb that don't need to be at the curb. They could have gone in the recycling container, because a lot of things are recycling. I mean, there were houses we stopped by. It was piles of cardboard. All that's recyclable.
Right,
You could have
right.
put that in your container all throughout the year. You didn't have to wait till spring and throw a big pile out at the curb. And then there's just regular trash that are thrown in bags or whatever. That all that could go in the container throughout the year. So
You guys are just cracking down.
no, it's just getting people to understand. Utilize the containers for what they're
I
for.
put my cardboard in there.
and
There's
then
no doubt.
and then utilize the spring cleanup day for what you need it for, which is bulk item pickup.
Right. Okay. How about my gas grill? I threw that away. The guys picked it up.
Yeah,
That was fine.
that's a bulk item. Yeah,
That's a bulk item.
Yeah.
Well, it was.
yeah. And sometimes you could get pickers pick that up just for the steel recycling.
They should have,
for that.
but they didn't.
Sometimes they do. I mean, we don't necessarily offer that. There was one years ago when the steel prices were super high that we told people, put out your steel appliances because somebody's going to come by and get it. The city's not going to get it, but we've already coordinated with a recycler that they're going to come by on the days and pick up steel appliances.
Yeah, there was the usual junkers out. That's fine. But I must live in a poor neighborhood because I only saw one go down my street. Oh, this is really bad.
Your neighborhood's so bad the junkers don't even come
The
through.
junkers don't even want to. I do have to ask you a question, personal privilege here, since I do have a situation where I get to ask questions that maybe nobody else does. But the city a couple of years ago fixed 4th Avenue North, and thank you. It's so much better. I can't tell you, because we were down to nothing but broken asphalt.
Yeah.
Well, now it's nice. It's all nice, and
Yeah.
we have a curb and everything. Well, when the city did that, any grass was on the parking was chewed up. Now the city came along and graded it and tried to put grass seed on it, and then they walked away. So what we have essentially is huge weeds.
Oh, really?
Is there anything that can? Should the city look after that when they do something? Because we're doing a lot of streets, of course.
Oh, so people aren't mowing it, or just it never got established well as grass. And
Right,
so
it
the
never
weeds-
got established. No, it's not that necessarily that it's not being mowed, but weeds grow a lot faster. And we have nice grass around the condo. It's all been reseeded, and it looks nice. But on the parking around the corner, 4th Avenue North, and around the corner onto North 10th Street, we have kind of a mess on the parking.
Oh.
The weeds, of course, again, get up there pretty fast.
Yeah, I'll have to, because that'd be on the side where we actually replaced the curb, right? So we dug that out. Yeah,
south
okay.
side of the street.
I'll have to check and see whether, because a lot of times the larger projects where we do the reconstruction, the general contractor has a responsibility for all that work, the backfilling and the seeding. I can tell you just from my own experience, that's usually where we end up with not the best results at the end, where it's either the seed never takes, so the weeds take, like in your situation, or the seed doesn't take well enough to get established before the weeds, or whatever reasons, and we end up going back. In your case, I don't know if there's a warranty with the general for that part of the project, or because that was a little bit unique and it was part of the overall city, what we call resurfacing project, but yet we had to do the curb. Who was responsible for all that backfilling? I'll have to check that specifically. But typically what we do is if it doesn't get established well, and if it's within a warranty period, we have the contractor come back out and reseed it. And the contractor then has a subcontractor who's usually a landscape company, come back out, kill the weeds, whatever they got to do to reseed it and try to get it established.
Yeah, because that really needs to be done on that block there.
Okay,
it's just a
that's
mess.
good to know.
It's just a mess.
But other cases, we're on the radio. So if other cases like that around town where the seed doesn't seem like it gets established well, we just need to know that, and the sooner the better. So we're in the warranty period with the contractor.
The guy that mows our lawn, we have some contractor that comes and mows our lawn. He got kind of ticked with all those weeds. He didn't mow the parking.
Oh, see, and that doesn't help. That gets them established.
That really
more.
gets hot.
Yeah.
Well, I use C-Click Fix. And when I came out, when I came home from work the next day, somebody trimmed all the weeds on the parking. But as you say, he was, I don't know, copped an attitude, something, I don't know. But we have nice grass on the lawn, And the parking is just overgrown weeds.
Hmm.
And somebody should be responsible, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the adjacent property owner is responsible for the parking to keep the weeds down.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, or the grass. Even if they're
Mhm.
ticked off that it's not good, they're still responsible for cutting it.
I understand that'll happen.
Well,
That'll
We'll
happen.
have to look at whether we need to get that contractor back out to reseed that or not.
All right, David Fierk, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mike.
This is AM 1400 KVFD.
Michael Devine at AM 1400 KVFD.
Listen to this.
Making radio great again.
This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice for 533. The news is next.
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm a mom of two, and I live with HIV. When I first received my diagnosis, I was really worried about how I was going to provide for my kids because I knew taking control of my diagnosis was going to be expensive. So I started looking for any resources that could help us out, and I found out I was eligible for Ryan White services through the Iowa Department of Public Health. I qualified for medication and medical care, financial help, transportation, housing, and even counseling. I'm amazed by how much support is available, and I wish I had talked to someone sooner, especially now that I know I'm not alone. Over 3,000 Iowans are living with HIV. How we take care of ourselves and how we manage our care are two of the most important ways we can live our best lives. I'm living with HIV, not dying from it. Why wait? Reach out for testing and care services at StopHIVIowa.org.
Prescription products require an online physician consultation and are only available if the physician determines a prescription is appropriate. See website for full details.
Hey guys, good news. The outrageously expensive little blue pill is now generic, which means you can get the prescription medication to treat ED at affordable prices. And Hims makes it extra affordable. Right now, get your first month supply for free. All you pay is just $5 for your medical consultation when you go to 4hims.com/able. After that, it's just $30 for a month's supply. Sure beats paying big bucks for just one blue pill, doesn't it? Plus, you won't need an awkward in-person doctor's appointment to get the prescription. Hims has doctors online who can prescribe the medication, and a pharmacy sends it right to your door. It's affordable, private, and incredibly easy. Nobody likes dealing with ED. Now, thanks to Hims, nobody has to. And that's really good news. To get your first order for just $5, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/able. That's 4hims.com/able for your first month for just $5. 4hims.com/able.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With a look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge City Council at their meeting last night entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Insurance Division regarding the Fort Dodge Memorial Park Cemetery. The Iowa Insurance Division is in the process of pursuing receivership of the property. Alan Dorothy last month informed city officials that he was out of business and was no longer taking care of the cemetery, with the city receiving multiple complaints in the last few weeks of May about overgrown grass. Under the terms of the memorandum, the city will maintain the cemetery's maps and records, maintain the cemetery buildings and grounds, as well as mow the site. The state will reimburse the city $35,000. The city recently hired Jeff Lawn and Snow Care of Rolfe to mow the cemetery at a cost of $11,000. Once the Iowa Insurance Division gains control of the site through the receivership process, it'll seek a new owner. If a new owner cannot be found, the cemetery will become city property. Well, the latest crop report shows the corn's planted and all across the state, and soybeans are not that far behind. Art Danielson with more.
Just 2% of the corn planting remained going into last week, and farmers are now looking for some good warm growing days. 96% of the corn has emerged. That's 2 weeks behind where we were last year at this time and 15 days behind the 5-year average. Report shows still about 5% of the soybeans remain to be planted. 81% of the beans that have been planted have emerged. That's also 2 weeks behind last year. The corn condition is reported at 62% good to excellent, while beans are at 63%. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A farmer from West Central Iowa's Greene County is taking the helm of the Iowa Soybean Association this fall, but it comes with trepidation. Incoming President Tim Bardole of Rippey says these are very challenging times for soybean farmers.
It's going to be a tough year. The association is funded from the soybean checkoff, a lot of it. And with the low prices, tough planting season, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of budget issues.
Many commodities have seen poor prices for several straight years, and they're slow to recover, while Bardole says recent tariffs and trade troubles have made the matters worse.
We need worldwide free trade. The U.S. farmer, even in tough times, we're very, very good at producing soybeans, and all the other agricultural products. U.S. definitely feeds the world.
Barndole took a trip to China earlier this year and saw up close how that country's enormous numbers depend heavily on American growers.
I've been to Malaysia and the Philippines. The world very much depends on U.S. agriculture for the good of their population.
Barndole will take office in September. He comes from a farming family, and his father was the president of the ISA in the late 1980s. The Ankeny-based Iowa Soybean Association has 11,000 members. Two Central Iowa judges are being asked this week to overturn two recently passed state laws. The League of United Latin American Citizens and Iowa State University student Taylor Blair are asking a Polk County District judge to strike down three parts of the law Republicans passed in 2017, including the requirement that voters show an ID at the polls. Attorney Bruce Spiva says these provisions put burdens on the right to vote that outweigh any potential benefits.
The unjustified hurdles that HF 516 place in front of the ballot box will disproportionately trip those voters who are young, voters who are elderly, poor, lacking in educational attainment, minorities, women, and Democrats.
A lawyer for the state says these regulations are tailored to protect the integrity of Iowa's elections and instill public confidence in the process. Matt Gannon is Assistant Attorney General for the state of Iowa.
They apply to all voters in a uniform and non-discriminatory manner and are properly tailored to advance legitimate state interests.
Now, the trial is expected to last 2 weeks. Another judge at another Polk County District courtroom heard arguments about a law passed on the last day of the 2019 legislative session. The law gives the governor authority to name another member to the 17-member commission that nominates candidates for openings on the Iowa Supreme Court and Court of Appeals. A group of Democratic lawmakers argues Republicans are trying to stack the deck for Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Assistant Attorney General argued in court Monday that the state constitution gives Republican lawmakers authority to change the makeup for the commission. And as one of his colleagues proposes wiping out all college debt for 45 million Americans, Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley asked, where will it end? Wipe out all the home mortgages? Grassley, a Republican, says the legislation offered by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who's running for president, is at first glance impractical and upon closer inspection, contrary to what Democrat Sanders is fighting for.
I would be surprised about a very liberal person like Sanders that's always complaining about the 1% wealthy, the billionaires. This would benefit the rich and middle class the most, and not necessarily helping those that he's always trying to help.
Sanders' bill, called the College for All Act, would wipe out $1.6 billion in debt. The rationale is without that debt, college graduates could spend their earnings on other things like houses that would stimulate the economy. That's a look at local news. For the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting.
This is AM 1400 KVFT, the voice for Dodge. In the weather, sunny today, high 84, overnight clear, then becoming mostly cloudy with a low of 60. Tomorrow, a little bit of rain, mostly sunny with a high of 84. Thursday, rain, sunny with a high of 85. We get better on Friday and through the weekend. On Friday, it'll be sunny with a high of 90. On Saturday, it'll be sunny with a high of 93. Sunday, sunny with a high of 93. And Monday, sunny with a high of 90. Right now in Fort Dodge, 82 degrees at AM 1400. KVFD, the voice for Dodge. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South, Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. Margaret Moore has died at the age of 94. Peggy L. Moore, 95 of Fort Dodge, died Sunday the 23rd at Oakview Care Center in Conrad. Funeral services will be at 11 o'clock in the morning, Monday the 15th of July at the Corpus Christi Church here in town. Obituaries this hour brought to you by the historic Bruce's Funeral Home at 923 First Avenue South in Fort Dodge. You may contact the historic Bruce's Funeral Home by calling 515-576-5117 or online at www.brucesfuneralhome.com. It's 442 and 82 degrees at AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
From the Fox Business Network. No independents on the road this Independence Day as AAA says a record 48.9 million Americans will travel for the 4th of July holiday next week, most of them expected to be behind the wheel. Consumer confidence dropping this month, lowest level since September of 2017. The report, which was done by the Conference Board, blames the battle over trade and tariffs for the drop. Trade worries partly to blame for a big sell-off on Wall Street Tuesday. Investors also concerned about tensions with Iran and the direction of interest rates. Home prices Prices still rising, not as much as they used to be, though, as S&P CoreLogic Case Shiller says prices in the top 20 U.S. cities grew 2.5% in April from the same time a year ago, slowest annual pace of growth since August of 2012. And new home sales took a tumble in May, falling by nearly 8%. The biggest hits coming in high-price markets in the Northeast and out west. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Connell McShane.
Summer is here, and Matt's got the barbecue out all ready to grill. That's why he trusts Super Poly Grip, so he can enjoy his steak with full confidence.
Poly Grip.
Sounds like there's a party going on, but something's missing. The birthday gal's arrived, and thanks to Polydent, her bright smile is anything but a surprise.
Polydent.
The biggest sale of the season is going on now at Jim's Carpet One's Red Tag Flooring Sale. Hi, this is Dean Sternberg. The Red Tags are your tickets to savings up to 50% off the best brands of flooring featuring Relaxis Lee's carpets. The only carpets with a 25-year no exclusions warranty against spills and stains, even pet accidents. Save now on waterproof luxury vinyl, classic tile, natural hardwoods, cabinets, window coverings, and more. The Red Tag Flooring Sale only at Jim's Carpet One Floor and Home, across from Decker Truck Line, Fort Dodge.
When severe weather threatens, keep it here for the Severe Weather Advisor. Brought to you by Creative Signs and Graphics, Fort Dodge. For signs, decals, vehicle graphics, magnets, logos, customized documents, and more. If your business needs it, Creative Signs and Graphics can make it. And a stitch above the rest embroidery, Fort Dodge. Step out in style with quality brands, timely turnaround, and professional service. A stitch above the rest. Embroidery professionals worth finding. Remember, when severe weather threatens, stay with your friends on KVFD.
In today's economy, it just makes sense to plan ahead. At Historic Bruce Funeral Home, pre-planning your funeral arrangements can save you money. By planning ahead, you can secure your arrangements at today's prices, no matter when our services are needed. Pre-planning your funeral is one of the most thoughtful things you can do for your family. Call us for details. Historic Bruce Funeral Home, Fort Dodge. Online at brucesfuneralhome.com.
At Fidelity, we believe nothing should come between you and your money. So we're introducing zero account fees with zero minimums to open an account. All because we want you to invest with zero trade-offs. Visit fidelity.com/value to learn more. Zero account minimums and zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Expenses charged by investments such as funds and managed accounts and for commissions, interest charges, or other expenses for transactions may still apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, member NYSE, SIPC.
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
This week on the Iowa Watch Connection.
And pretty soon we had excavation and defracking all the trees, and it was the beginning of the end here.
Mining activities produce needed materials, but the process may have a cost.
You know, I've had sand on my car. I've had sand in various things on my deck.
A byproduct known as silica dust has been tied to health problems.
The whole issue with any kind of atmospheric pollutant is accumulated exposure to it, to the point where you're developing some sort of a health symptom.
The health risks tied to Iowa mines. Our topic this week.
The Iowa Watch Connection is presented by the Iowa Center for Public Affairs Journalism, online at iowawatch.org. Here is Jeff Stein.
It's been around for about 30 years now, hydraulic fracturing or fracking. Enough time so the ancillary impact of the process can more fully be seen. And it's led some to believe there are serious health implications for citizens. Iowa Watch reporter Emily Heinem is a University of Dubuque student who has our report.
Jim and Kathy Catchell moved into their home south of Bagley, Wisconsin in 2008. The place appealed to the Catchells, who were retired teachers. Their home was at a high point overlooking the Mississippi River, and they could look across the river and see the bluffs of scenic Clayton County, Iowa. Kathy Catchell said that she knew a silica sand mine had been built across the river inside those bluffs.
Well, we bought the property in 2001, and we knew that there had been excavation underneath the bluff in front of us, and that they had used it for storing grain and for supplies during World War II, and that was kind of a depot with the underground storage kind of thing, and that we knew there was highways and stuff underneath it. So, but it was not anything you could see. There's obviously from where, a depot where they, bring in the barges and that kind of thing. But that's it's a working river. That's just fine.
The view changed, though. The wooded hillsides gave way to terraced layers of limestone used by trucks at the Pattison Sand Mine of Clayton, Iowa. Pattison mines about 750 acres, most of it underground, for silica sand, which comes in tiny particles of quartz that are useful in the controversial practice of fracking elsewhere in the country. The sand only exists in Iowa, in Clayton, Winneshiek, and Allamakee counties, in Iowa's far northeast corner. It is also in the far southeast corner of Minnesota and in the southwest Wisconsin region.
And then in 2008, we were sitting here and we were having breakfast, like I said, and I saw this smoke coming off the bluff, and it, I was like, it was good weather. It wasn't like there was a lightning strike or anything, and it was just in the middle. And then they just kept burning and burning over the course of several months, and then pretty soon we had excavation and defrocking all the trees, and it was the beginning of the end here.
The mine is an economic driver for Clayton, a river town of less than 50 people, and the county that bears the same name. But it has also produced controversy for a variety of reasons. They include removing the wooded, hilly landscape for mining, spilling sand while trucks and trains go through the nearby towns of McGregor and Marquette, and sending tiny sand particles into the air that people breathe. The Catchells say that they have had to clean dust from their home and wonder what other impact, notably to their health, that the dust is having on them. Other residents, but also environmental researchers, wonder about the health impact too. Fracking and the frac sand mining that helps drive it only appeared on the national stage in the last 30 years, so long-term data aren't available to help with their concern.
I've had sand on my car. I've had sand in various things on my deck.
That's Pat Popple of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. At 79, she is known for her opposition to business practices at the Superior Silica Sands, which is about 25 miles from Chippewa Falls.
After a rain, for example, you can see these fine particulates. And the railroad track goes about a block and a half away from my home. So all of the mining all of the processing that's going on there, and there's a transfer station, all the mining that's going on to the north comes down this way, so it all goes past on that railroad track about a mile or about a block and a half away. So the city of Chippewa Falls has been greatly impacted by the mine, or the processing plant.
Silica-rich sand is a key ingredient in hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, acting as a structural support for water and chemicals pumped into the natural shale reservoirs to stimulate the production of natural gas. But silica sand mining produces silica dust, and prolonged exposure to its tiny particles can scar lung tissue, resulting in irreversible and sometimes fatal respiratory damage. The American Lung Association says about 2 million U.S. workers remain potentially exposed to occupational silica. But disagreement exists over the risk of exposure to people living in frac sand mining areas. Patrick O'Shaughnessy, co-author of a University of Iowa Occupational and Environmental Health Department study in 2015 for the advocacy group Preserve Trempealeau County, said residents near sand mines in southwest Wisconsin didn't show adverse health symptoms associated with silica dust.
It's hard to generalize, but because, I think what we found was a variation in potential exposures. In general, they were low. Yeah, so that's the general statement. Then, we had anecdotal evidence of people saying, well, there's dust on my windowsills, and my truck got covered with a fine coating of sand last night or something like that. So we, also recognize that there's more than likely occasions of high wind, for example, that scarf across these sand piles, push the sand up into the atmosphere, drop it down someone nearby, but is very, kind of on a occasion by occasion basis. And the whole issue with any kind of atmospheric pollutant is accumulated exposure to it, to the point where you're developing some sort of a health symptom. So obviously you can get that super high exposures over a short time, or potentially long-term exposures at lower levels can cause effects as well. And, our ultimate conclusions were that these sand mines in total for anyone nearby or whatever weren't giving them the kind of exposure that they would need. I shouldn't say need, but that would require them to start having some sort of adverse health symptoms associated with it.
O'Shaughnessy and the University of Iowa researchers sampled 17 homes over 48 hours within 1/2 mile of active sand mining in Trempealeau County. While they found all silica samples to be well below the value of concern, environmental events such as high winds can concentrate dust, the researchers concluded. O'Shaughnessy presented his research at a 2016 community meeting by Pattison.
There certainly was community level effects with these mines in Wisconsin. Again, I don't know about the Pattison thing, but there was enough people that showed up to that talk I gave that, obviously a lot of interest from the community. Of course, they're interested in their health, but there's also, different societal effects, like just in the case of these mines, a massive amount of truck traffic on backcountry roads that never had a lot of truck traffic before, because they were bombing up and down between the mines and the processing plant. And then, just the quality in terms of having a nice view out your back door that's no longer there because they lopped the top of the hill off.
Pattison is following several recommendations made to protect health for those exposed at work at the mine and living nearby. Jackie Lee, a marketing spokeswoman and company representative for Pattison Sand, told us in an email. Lee declined to be interviewed in person, but wrote that Pattison takes the health and safety of its workers and neighbors seriously and has invested in technology and equipment to keep exposure levels well below approved levels.
Public health researchers disagree on the impact the dust has had on the long-term health of residents living in or near silica sand mining communities. We'll hear more on that from reporter Emily Hynum in our next segment when the Iowa Watch Connection continues. And today's report is supported by funding from the University of Northern Iowa Science in the Media Project, a collaboration with the UNI Communication Studies Department and Iowa Watch to produce science-related reporting and to train student journalists to do this kind of reporting in depth. Iowa Watch selected the topic for this report and had full editorial control over its contents. You can learn more at scienceinthemedia.org.
In the name of
Michael Devine at AM 1400.
In the name of justice and the American way of life.
With 60 rounds of freedom.
I remember a teacher that I had. Now I went through the 7th grade. I went to the 7th grade. I left home when I was 10 years old because I was hungry. And I used to, this is true. I work in the summer and I go to school in the winter. But I had this one teacher. He was the principal of the Harrison School in Vincennes, Indiana. To me, this was the greatest teacher, a real sage of my time, anyhow. He had such wisdom. And we were all reciting the Pledge of Allegiance one day. And he walked over, this little old teacher, Mr. Laswell was his name. Mr. Laswell, he says, he says, I've been listening to you boys and girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester. And it seems as though it's becoming monotonous to you. If I may I recite it and try to explain to you the meaning of each word. I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion. to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts, freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose. All divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common purpose. And that's love for country. And to the Republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people. And it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands. One nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power to live one's own life without threats, fear, or some sort of retaliation. And justice, the principle or qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, which means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. And now, boys and girls, let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country.
Hi, this is Leslie Segretti.
And I'm Tom Kreitler, and you can hear the Money Pit every Saturday afternoon from 4 to 6 on the voice of Fort Dodge, AM 1400 KVFD, Fort Dodge.
Pleading their case. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. 2 weeks after emotional testimony before members of Congress, 9/11 and first responders meet with the Senate Majority Leader. Fox's Jared Halpern live on Capitol Hill.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has agreed to a vote by August on extending a victims and first responders compensation fund, a group of 9/11 first responders said after a meeting with the lawmaker.
If he strays from his commitment, then we'll go back into attack mode. But for now, we're going to put down our swords.
John Field was a recovery worker at Ground Zero. The 9/11 Compensation Fund provides health care services to first responders. It's set to expire next year. Payouts have already been slashed. A House measure would replenish that fund and extend it to 2090. Lisa.
Jared, new fallout from the crisis at the border as the acting commissioner steps down days after it was revealed dozens of migrant children were living at a remote detention center in filthy conditions.
John Sanders had been acting as head of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection since its commissioner, Kevin McAleenan, was tapped to take over as acting Homeland Security Secretary in April. Sanders' resignation takes effect July 5th, but in an email to CBP employees did not explain the reasons for his departure. CBP has been at the forefront of responding to a surge of Central American families at the U.S. southern border that the president and even some Democrats have called a humanitarian crisis.
Fox's John Decker at the White House. Iran still takes threats from the U.S. seriously. So says President Trump one day after a new round of economic sanctions.
Well, I'll tell you what the message is. When they're ready, they'll have to let us know. When they're ready, they'll let us know. Very simple.
Earlier today, Tehran warned the sanctions mean closing the doors of diplomacy. This is Fox News.
Summer is here, and Matt's got the barbecue out all ready to grill. That's why he trusts Super Poly Grip, so he can enjoy his steak with full confidence.
Poly Grip.
Sounds like there's a party going on. But something's missing. The birthday gals arrived. And thanks to Polydent, Her bright smile is anything but a surprise.
Polydent.
This is Carl on his motorcycle.
Let's ride till we run out of gas.
And this is Carl off his motorcycle.
Balsa wood is very different than teak. People confuse the two.
On his motorcycle.
Hey, check out that view.
Off his motorcycle.
Let's do puzzles in the break room.
On.
Look at all that open road.
Off.
Look how long my fingernails are getting.
You're better on your bike. Progressive helps keep you on it. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Been seen.
Your news, your town, your station. KVFD News when it breaks.
With a look at local news for the newsroom, I'm Bob Fisher reporting. The Fort Dodge City Council at their meeting last night entered into a memorandum of understanding with the Iowa Insurance Division regarding the Fort Dodge Memorial Park Cemetery. The Iowa Insurance Division is in the process of pursuing receivership of the property. Alan Dorothy last month informed city officials that he was out of business and was no longer taking care of the cemetery, with the city receiving multiple complaints in the last few weeks of May about overgrown grass. Under the terms of the memorandum, the city will maintain the cemetery's maps and records, maintain the cemetery buildings and grounds, as well as mow the site. The state will reimburse the city $35,000. The city recently hired Jeff's Lawn and Snow Care of Rolfe to mow the cemetery at a cost of $11,000. Once the Iowa Insurance Division gains control of the site through the receivership process, it'll seek a new owner. If a new owner cannot be found, the cemetery will become city property. Well, the latest crop report shows the corn's planted and all across the state, and soybeans are not that far behind. Art Danielson with more.
Just 2% of the corn planting remained going into last week, and farmers are now looking for some good warm growing days. 96% of the corn has emerged. That's 2 weeks behind where we were last year at this time and 15 days behind the 5-year average. The report shows still about 5% of the soybeans remain to be planted. 81% of the beans that have been planted have emerged. That's also 2 weeks behind last year. The corn condition is reported at 62% good to excellent, while beans are at 63%. Radio Iowa, I'm Dar Danielson.
A farmer from West Central Iowa's Greene County is taking the helm of the Iowa Soybean Association this fall, but it comes with trepidation. Incoming President Tim Bardole of Rippey says these are very challenging times for soybean farmers.
It's going to be a tough year. The association is funded from the soybean checkoff, a lot of it. And with the low prices, tough planting season, there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of budget issues.
Many commodities have seen poor prices for several straight years, and they're slow to recover, while Bardole says recent tariffs and trade troubles have made the matters worse.
We need worldwide free trade. The U.S. farmer, even in tough times, we're very, very good at producing soybeans and all the other agricultural products. U.S. definitely feeds the world.
Bardole took a trip to China earlier this year and saw up close how that country's enormous numbers depend heavily on American growers.
I've been to Malaysia and the Philippines. The world very much depends on U.S. agriculture for the good of their population.
Bardole will take office in September. He comes from a farming family, and his father was the president of the ISA in the late 1980s. The Ankeny-based Iowa Soybean Association has 11,000 members. 2 Central Iowa judges are being asked this week to overturn 2 recently passed state laws. The League of United Latin American Citizens and Iowa State University student Taylor Flair.
Live from the headquarters of Ramsey Solutions, broadcasting from the Dollar Car Rental Studios. It's the Dave Ramsey Show, where debt is dumb, cash is king, and the paid-off home mortgage has taken the place of the BMW as the status symbol of choice. I am Dave Ramsey, your host. This is all about you. This is a show that's called The Dave Ramsey Show. This is about my opinion, and I'm pretty much an expert on my opinion. But we're here to help you. We are here to serve you. We're here to cause you to be inspired and informed so that you do better at whatever part of your life it is that you and I are going to work on today. The phone number is 888-825-5225. That's 888-825-5225. Daniel is with us in Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show, Daniel.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Well, got a what would Dave do question on if I should sell my house.
Okay.
I bought the house before I started listening to you. It's an on-frame modular, which is similar to a double wide, and I owe $46,000 on it. I own the 4 acres that is underneath it, and I'm paying PMI on a 15-year mortgage at 3.75%, and I'm in baby step 456.
What do you owe
Should
on
I
it?
sell the house now?
What do you owe on
or
it?
46,
Okay. And what's your household income?
right at 60,000.
Okay. Well, there's several grades and points along a line of modular homes. Okay. There's the super cheap bad trailer in the trailer park on one end, right? And everybody knows what that thing's going to do. It's going to go down in value like a car you sleep in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then on the other end of the spectrum, when we say modular homes, a lot of modern home builders buy or engineer even wall sections, certainly floor sections. Many times some of the rafter sections and so forth are modular in that they're pre-constructed in a factory and delivered on a truck bed, and then they're stood up and tied together. So a lot of homes that people think are built traditionally are very much modular homes because there's modules that are pieced together, but you cannot tell that they're modular homes. And in some cases, they're actually stronger than a traditional stick-built home because of the engineering on the wall systems and so forth. That's the other end of the spectrum. That would be the Cadillac end. You know what I'm saying? The Bentley end of modular housing. So here's the thing. My only point about, quote, modular housing or trailers or whatever you want to call them in these different situations is if you can drive up in front of it, if the typical person can drive up in front of it, and they think to themselves, that thing came in on a truck. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If they think that, then it's not going to go up in value as much as a, quote, traditional house. Would you agree with that statement?
I agree with that, and that's probably what my house is.
Okay. And so I don't know what portion of it came in on a truck or if the whole thing came in on a truck and then we sat it on a fixed foundation or whatever. But if it looks like inside when I'm walking through it and I'm looking at the trim package and I'm looking at the plumbing fixtures and I'm looking at the exterior and the way the thing is shaped and so forth, and I think to myself, this thing came in on a truck, 90% of the time that's not going to go up in value like a traditional home would sitting on the exact same piece of property. And if that's the case, then that's not a property I want to hold. As I want to buy real estate that's going to go up in value. So if you had the exact same amount of money invested in another piece of real estate that didn't look like it came in on a truck, it would go up in value more. And so I don't think anything's on fire here, but if that's how your house lands, and you just said it does, then sometime in the next 4 or 5 years, it might be next year, it might be this year, it might be 5 years from now, sometime in your process, you're going to want to own a different piece of property because you're going to get better appreciation on it. That's my only thing about it. And again, the house you're in, it could be a fine property. It could be more than adequate for your family. It could be very structurally and engineering wise, very sound. I'm not putting down trailers or modular houses. I'm just observing, is the thing going to go up in value as fast as something that doesn't look like it was brought there on a truck bed? And that's all we're talking about here. I've got friends that own these huge mobile home manufacturing things, and they're always like, Dave, you don't know what you're talking about, mobile homes. I'm like, you're right, I don't. As far as engineering parts and how nice they are. Because when I was a kid, it's just trailer. It's a trailer. We didn't call it a mobile home. It's like a domestic engineer. It's a housewife. It's just like janitor. We have to come up with all these euphemistic names. It's a mobile home. Okay, great. That means it's a house that can leave on a trailer. It's mobile. Okay, that tells you something. It is a trailer or it will leave on a flatbed. And so if you're in that business, I'm not mad at you, but the data in the marketplace says the marketplace does not respect your product like it does a traditional stick-built home. And so if you're building a modular home, folks, in such a way that the typical person can walk up to it from the inside, the way the trim package and the plumbing package and the kitchen is set up, or from the exterior, and it looks like a glorified trailer, then you're not going to get the appreciation on it. That's just common sense. It's not putting anybody down. I'm not mad. I'm not saying mobile homes are a ripoff, but the traditional mobile home on wheels, the little tiny wheels, and they roll it up and they put a little, picket fence around the edge of it, that sucker's dropping like a rock. And some of you are buying $70,000, $80,000 versions of those in double wide or even more. And then, 15 years later, is that thing worth 200? No, it's worth 10. It's going the wrong way. That's a car you sleep in. I mean, that's all it is going down in value. And so you just got to think through that stuff. And that's what Daniel's asking about. So, Daniel, good question. I hope that gives you the decision-making tools for you to look at your property. I wouldn't panic on yours. I don't think yours might not even be going down. It might be going up. It's just not going up as fast as another property of similar value that does not have those characteristics. That's what you're looking for. It's the same thing in what is this little house movement? Is it little house? Is that what they're calling them? What do they call them? Tiny house. The tiny house movement. Little house is bigger than the tiny house. There's another movement y'all don't know about. It's called the little house movement. I just made it up. But no, the tiny house movement, which is like a glorified doghouse, right? It's a doghouse with an air conditioner. And everybody wants to live in the tiny house. And the tiny house movement. Well, the problem with the tiny house movement is basic economics. There's not many buyers. And when there's not many buyers chasing a good supply of items, the supply of items, supply versus demand causes that item to not appreciate or to actually go down in value. But when there are a few items with a lot of buyers chasing them, like there is in real estate right now, you put a house on the market right now, a traditional home in most markets, most major markets, you don't have not only have an offer by the end of the weekend, you have multiple offers. Some places you get a freaking bidding war for your house right now. And what's that causing real estate prices to do? Go up. Because you have a large number of buyers chasing a few number of sellers. And anytime you have that, it's basic supply-demand economics. You were supposed to have learned that in the 7th grade back when they taught the right stuff in the 7th grade. This is the Dave Ramsey Show. I get asked all the time, at what age should I buy life insurance? Let me be clear. If you have a family, if there are people depending on your income, now is the time to have term life insurance. I don't care if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, or whatever. Your age is less important than your financial situation. If you have debt and a lack of savings, it makes no sense to risk your family's financial well-being based on the cost of a term life policy. Term life rates are just plain cheap. Even if you're not in